Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Riverside Unified School Districts. We are returning from closed session where nothing was decided or we had no action items, so I have nothing to report out on that. And I'm going to move into open session now. And we're going to begin open session with our Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight it's being led by Aiden Hernandez. Aiden, can you come forward, please? And lead us in the pledge.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Aiden. Aiden is a fifth grader at Alcott Elementary, and Ms. Shani Dahl, his principal, tells us that Aiden is a remarkable student, both in and out of the classroom. He exemplifies intelligence, creativity, and wit while remaining humble and appreciative. If he were to be judged on academics alone, he would rise to the top of the class. But his talents do not stop when he leaves school. Aiden demonstrated advanced achievement in language arts, math and science, and social studies. Additionally, he performs admirably in the school band. Outside of the classroom, Aiden is involved in Boy Scouts, children's theater, and soccer. We're glad you made time for us here, Aiden. He's an exceptional person, and I'm proud to have him represent Alcott and RUSD at our board meeting. So everybody, please give Aiden a round of applause. So Aiden, would you like to introduce your family members that are here?
So today I have brought with me my mom, Valerie Hernandez, my dad, Gabriel Hernandez, my sister, Gwyneth Hernandez, my teacher, Mr. Reagan, and my principal, Mrs. Dahl.
Nice. Thank you all for being here. All right, stay there, Aiden. I've got a little certificate, and we'd like to get a photo of you, too. And your parents, if you'd like. And Mr. Reagan? A trumpet.
Hi, good. How are you?
Yeah, hey, everybody, come on.
Diane.
Let's get a picture. Can you get us all this? And if you don't know Aiden, you are welcome to leave because we just are going to do some board business. So if you don't want to listen, you don't have to. Thank you very much for coming. And thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez, for giving us such a fine student. All right, next up on our agenda is we are really lucky to have a performance by Polly cellist Paco Cornejo Reynoso. And, he's Mr. Harbrader's student at Poly. And I think Mr. Harbrader is going to introduce him. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay. Oh, you're there. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Well, thank you, Superintendent and board members. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce to you a very gifted musician and an awesome young man, Paul Cornejo Reynoso. Paul recently had the opportunity of playing at prestigious Carnegie Hall in New York. Your client was selected out of a great number of players, so it is a tremendous honor. The call is the product of our strength programs at RUSD.
what a way to start a board meeting. Oh, I love that piece. It brings tears to my eyes every time. Pakal, we have a little token of our appreciation. We'd like to have your family come on up, particularly recognizing you for your efforts and appearing in Carnegie Hall and representing so well. So why don't you guys come on down?
I need to go home and watch Downton Abbey. I'm sorry, I've just been moved by that. Pakal, where are you going to go to school after you leave us?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Riverside Unified School District Board of Education honors Pacal Reynoso, honored for 2014.
Oh, yeah? Here's an outline.
Thank you, Mr. Oh, can't we all just go home now? That was so beautiful. Thank you.
What if I could ask, can we ask a question of the parents?
Sure, yeah.
I was going to ask Pakal's parents, as he is a product of our string program and all, as we're asking questions now of our public of what can we do to better each student, what could the district have done for Pakal when he was younger to help him here and to create more opportunities like the one this young man had? Could you give us just your right? Would you mind, ma'am? Just to call on you with that. Yes, ma'am. If you wouldn't mind. So it's on the
This is
record.
Maria Reynoso Cornejo.
Thank you.
Cornejo.
Yeah, just Cornejo.
Just
okay.
Cornejo. So the question was, what could have the
Yeah, I mean, what did we do, and what could do as we go forward? I mean, we're impressed by what you're. Obviously, it's his upbringing and the home he lives in that has helped him. But what could the district have done more of, and what can we do in the future to help produce more young men like yours and women like yours?
Well, if Mr. Youthy, his first music teacher at Victoria, hadn't sent this wonderful letter home to parents, really just extolling the virtues of music, the academic benefits that students reap, and also the opportunities down the line for scholarships. And he pointed out that if students selected the viola or the cello, they would have more opportunities. So it was a great, great letter, because otherwise I don't think my husband and I would have just selected the cello, out of the blue. We knew we were going to direct our kids into music. That was going to be a non-negotiable. But it was very nice to have, the guidance, I guess, of a teacher. And so I think having teachers who actually, reach out to parents, I think, is pivotal. I think a lot of teachers, a lot of parents want more involvement with school, but they really want it with the teacher, not necessarily, with the board or the school in general, but really with the students' teachers. So I think, just the teachers being coached to reach out to parents a lot more and be a lot more open with parents.
And did you buy your son's cello, or is that something we supplied, or
At the beginning, the cello was supplied by the school in elementary, so for 3 years. And then I think we started renting one. But, there are some kids who do have the instruments on hand, and it would be nice to have more money to repair the cellos, because my daughter, who also is in the orchestra, said that, a cello needs to be repaired, and they are costly to repair. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for willing to do this. And I imagine because he doesn't know where he's going, because there's a lot of people vying for him. I would hope for his scholarships and also.
Yes, yeah. He had an audition at Irvine, and he has another one coming up at UCLA, and hopefully some other schools as well. So, yeah, thanks for having the music program. I think music is wonderful because we have to educate the whole child. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for loaning us your fine children for a few years. And as I mentioned to Aiden's family, if you're welcome to stay, but I imagine you have some college applications or something you want to go work on too. So thank you so much. Okay, moving on to our next section, our reports by our high school representatives. So who's up first? Let's see. Bernice, you want to come on up? From Ramona. Wearing her Rams blue, I see today.
Good afternoon, President Locke Dawson, Mr. Fine, and members of the board. I'm Bernice Rodriguez, and I'm happy to be here to present a little about what is happening at my school. I would like to start my presentation regarding our incoming 8th graders. We will be hosting 8th grade visitations on February 26th, and Shamawa and Sierra Middle School will be in attendance. The link leaders will start with a tour of the school, and then it will end with performances, and clubs will be available if they would like to sign up. At the end, counselors will also be available, and they'll give a presentation. There will be an 8th grade parent night on March 4th, and there will also be performances from our band, and we provide information for the parents. Next, we would like to congratulate RAM TV for their hard work. The video forward has been selected to be a part of the first annual White House Film Festival, and we have it here for you to watch today. Yeah, if you could just play it.
It's kicking ass, isn't it?
Technology. It's what moves us. It's what drives us. It's what allows us to express ourselves creatively. It's what allows us to relive those magical experiences over and over. It shows us our potential. It allows us to perceive our future. It allows us to consume the vast knowledge we intend to pass on to others. It allows us to work, to laugh, to play. And those memories we make, all those things in life we hold so dear, all those moments we have, is this just due to technology? No, it's education.
And since they are here tonight, I would like to ask them to stand. We would like to acknowledge Hope Skajum and Jake Berkshire, who worked on the video under the direction of our TV and video instructor, Jason Sight. Thank you. Next, I would like to conclude with a little bit about sports. And our wrestling placed first in league, and they went to CIF. They won the first round and lost in the quarterfinals. And at this time, I would like to call up our coach, Steve Campos, if he's here. I'm going to speak about him today. Our coach, Steve Campos, had announced he was retiring at the end of the season. He also coached at La Sierra and Notre Dame. He was the head coach at Ramona for 28 years and gave us a total of 37 years of hard work and dedication. Coach took in any type of student and helped them become successful. Having the skills to play the sport was not important to him. He wanted dedication and heart from all of his players, and he would help them become the best that they could. He enjoyed seeing his students grow and develop the skills they knew he had in them. He helped his students face challenges they never thought possible. Coach conveyed passion to all his players, and he inspired them to get the most out of their performance. Ramona would like to thank him for all his years and services. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank
You're welcome. And thank you for your service, Coach. We really do appreciate all you've done for the district and taking the Ramona Rams all the way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bernice. Okay, I think Jana's not here. I don't see her, right? Okay, so how about Aiden? Another Aiden today, Aiden Chavez. Come on down. How are you, Mr. Chavez?
I'm very well, thank you. Let me just fix this real quick. Good evening, Mrs. Dawson, Mr. Fine, and members of the board. At North, maintaining our tradition of excellence is really important to us. So that's why we try our best to maintain this tradition of excellence in all areas possible, including athletics, academics, and community involvement. And to the United Student League, this tradition of excellence is also important as well, as we continue to achieve many of the goals we established at the beginning of the year. In regards to community involvement, in regards to student recognition, the United Student League hosted the recognition rally this past Thursday. At the rally, we honored all of our mock trial members, our academic decathlon, our girls and boys varsity soccer for all their hard work. It was a really great event seeing all the students come together, really demonstrating the Husky pride at North. And also, we're really proud of our mock trial, who has already defeated both Jurupa Valley and Palm Desert and are now moving to their third round in competition. Also, in regards to student recognition, the United Student League hosted the Perfect Attendance Night. So this Perfect Attendance Night took place at our varsity basketball games versus Riverside Poly. And what we did was students who had perfect attendance for a semester were allowed to come to the game with no charge. And that was really great because one of the things I noticed was that it was one of our biggest attended games, and you could just feel the student enthusiasm in the gym. Another thing we're currently working on is our Proud Huskies luncheon. So this luncheon is a biannual luncheon that we host every semester, and it gives teachers and staff members a chance to nominate different students for different deeds, including citizenship, leadership, or attendance. And oftentimes the students who get nominated for these positions are those who are often unrecognized. And it's always important to recognize all of our deserving students here at North. Also, we're really proud for all of our athletic teams who are moving to the first CIF round in playoffs. First, we have our boys varsity soccer, who will play Redondo Union this upcoming week. Then we have our boys varsity basketball, who will play Sierra Canyon this upcoming week as well. And also girls varsity basketball will play against Valencia this upcoming week. We're really proud of all their hard work, and we wish them the best of luck in all of their games. And now, if we could all refer to the small little hearts I put in your board reports, our Multicultural Council hosted this really cool activity, and it was called Find Your Heart Day. So this activity took place this past Thursday, and we were encouraging all students to find their heart. So basically, the Multicultural Council made a heart for every student on campus, and they placed them all around campus. So it was kind of crazy and interesting seeing students run around trying to find their heart. But at the end of the day, students who found their heart were able to be placed in a lunchtime raffle, and they gave out different prizes like gift cards and other candy. And it really brought all the staff and students together at North, especially as some of our students were trying to look for some of our staff hearts, and some of our staff hearts were looking for some of our students' hearts. It was just a great thing to see. Also serving our student body is our AVID program, who just took their Northern California college tour. So they visited a couple colleges throughout Northern California. These colleges include UC Davis and CSU Chico. And they've actually just got back, so today was their first day back, and you can just tell some of these students were really motivated, especially because they learned so much during this trip. And Mr. Shive, our AVID coordinator, always does a great job planning this trip, so we were really thankful for him. Also, Dr. Sheffield has founded this cool new Principals Advisory Committee. We actually had our first meeting this past Tuesday, and the overall purpose for this committee is to get student feedback. One of the things Dr. Sheffield mentioned was that she was always getting feedback from teachers, always getting feedback from students, but what she wasn't getting enough feedback was from the students. And even though we just had our first meeting, I can already tell there's great promise and potential in addressing and improving various aspects throughout North. Also, our United Student League and our VAPA programs are really excited to participate this upcoming week at the Party at the Plaza. This is actually one of my favorite RUSD-sponsored events because it gives North a chance to really showcase the different programs we have to offer, and so people can learn a little bit about us. And at this time, we would like to invite all of our board members to our first annual open house and our Husky Pride Day. So we're having this whole brand new twist on our open house, and basically it's targeted for students but also their families. So for incoming ninth grade students get a chance to learn about different programs available at North, whether they be clubs, organizations, or academic programs. And we're also going to have various performances, and it is going to be really carnival and festive. So we're going to have different vendors, and we're going to have a DJ, so it's going to be lots of fun. So please save the date. It's coming up on March 1st, so it's a couple weeks away. Make sure to save the date. And also we have our Husky Pride Day. This is more targeted for the student individual, and this is where local schools from our North boundaries come and visit us, and they also get to find out about different programs at North. Once again, a big thank you for letting me speak on behalf of the incredible students at North.
Thank you, Aiden. Next up is Zoe Harness from Poly High School. Good evening, Ms. Harness.
Hello. Oh, wow. It was closer than I thought it was. Good evening, Mrs. Locke Dawson and members of the board. Again, my name is Zoe Harness, and I'm happy to be here with you this evening. What I'm going to show you is our Poly Pride video. This is our video, School Pride, just showing what we've kind of been working on this year. Pride stands for passion, respect, integrity, determination, and extraordinary. So please enjoy the video.
Okay, thank you.
Pride. Pride means like supporting what your belief is. It means being proud of your school and being proud of being a Poly Bear. It means to be proud of your school. Can you come back to me on that? It's like celebration, like football games. I don't know. Like pride means food. Wait, can you give me like 2 seconds?
What does pride mean to you?
What? I don't know what that dream is that you have. I don't care how disappointing it might have been as you've been working toward that dream. That dream that you're holding in your mind, that it's possible. What you'll realize is that you're more powerful than you can ever begin to imagine.
All right, so that is our school pride video, which will actually have its school-wide premiere on March 7th when we're going to have Polly Makes Music Rally, and it's just going to be an extended lunch. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to have about 11 different musical groups on campus perform at 3 different locations, and we're just going to encourage kids to get involved and kind of step out of their comfort zone and meet some new people. And it's also to introduce what WASC is and the WASC process, which is going to take place the week after. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zoe. That's great. I recognized a few of those people in that video.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Hunt would like to ask you a question.
Hi, Zoe. Thanks for coming out. Hey, how did the young ladies do at the competition in Florida?
Actually, we took 11th in the nation, so
Awesome.
they did
Good
really
job.
well. Yeah,
Good.
and I didn't get to say this, but all of our all of our winter sports are moving on to CIF. So
I understand the Lady Bears are playing tomorrow
yes,
at the home pool, right?
Yeah, we're very excited for them. They actually won league, so.
And I went to your game versus North the other night at North, and though there wasn't a senior on the team, you gave North a scare for a while there. It was good. You ran them well. So
Yeah.
You got a good team in front of you. Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all our high school representatives. And you know the drill. You're welcome to stay or you can move on. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it. The next section of our agenda is public input for items not on the agenda. And comments are limited to 3 minutes. And we have a couple here from Kevin Loff. Is it Loff or Lou? Lowe, sorry. Mr. Lowe, can you please come forward? Thank you, Mr. Lowe.
All right. Good evening, board members. I'd like to address an ongoing problem in our school district today. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't love my son and the other players that he plays with. I would ask the board if you would treat verbal abuse the same way you would physical abuse. My son plays basketball for Martin Luther King High School, and I coach Tim Sweeney. Over the past 4 years, he's suffered nothing but abuse from Coach Sweeney, and it's been going on and covered up by the athletic director, Tony Macy, and as far up as Principal Darrell Hanson. I would ask you, as I've sent emails to each one of you, to do your due diligence, as I filed a formal complaint letter against Coach Sweeney, and I sent it to the school and to you guys. And with their investigation, they came back to the kids and said, well, the investigation is over. It was unfounded. And Coach Sweeney, rather than apologize for his behavior, said he's only used the F word 3 times. I've heard Coach Sweeney use the F word 3 times in one sentence in 30 seconds. If you've ever attended a game at King High School, you'd understand what I'm talking about. The athletic director, I had a meeting with the athletic director and the principal, and they acted like I didn't know what I was talking about until I asked, would they like me to have Leslie Robeson on the phone on a voicemail? And they kind of looked at each other, and I said, I know she sent several emails to you guys about the behavior that was treated to her son the year before, and to Denise Steele, her son. And then all of a sudden they got rid of their amnesia and they knew what I was talking about. The sad thing is, nothing's been done. If you guys walked into a classroom and you sat in the back and the teacher was standing up there using F-bombs and abusing and berating your child in front of the whole class, that's what happens on the basketball court at King High School. My son sat there and the coach told him, get the F off the court, sit his effing butt on the bench, and don't even think about coming back into the effing game. My wife's parents who go to the games, very seldomly, because they've seen my son get hurt before, and My wife's mother was asking, what the hell was he yelling about still, because my son was already on the bench. Well, he proceeded to get up and go down and berate him in front of not only his teammates, but everyone at the school. This type of behavior isn't tolerated in the classroom, and it shouldn't be tolerated on the basketball court.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. We are not allowed to address you individually regarding these, but know that we take these matters very seriously. So we've heard you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Ann Loudermilk. Thank you, Ms. Loudermilk.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, Mr. Fine. I'm Ann Loudermilk, parent of a sophomore, second-year varsity basketball player at King High School, speaking for my husband, James, and myself. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about Tim Sweeney, coach of King boys basketball, whose behavior we believe is detrimental in the lives of the young men he coaches. We understand that the district is currently investigating, but are a bit unsure of the timeline. We are also aware that the chances to speak to all of you are few and far between, and we wanted to make sure that you are aware of the circumstances now rather than in March. Mr. Lowe has established the pattern of behavior Tim Sweeney exhibits toward his players. Now I would like to explain how he blatantly takes advantage of his position for significant personal financial gain by engaging in 3 specific corrupt practices. First, his rule is that it will be very difficult to make a team in the fall if you don't play summer basketball. Playing summer ball consists of paying $200 directly to Tim Sweeney because he runs the team as his own club team, not a school team. Checks are written to him or King Club and are endorsed by him personally. He will have 20 to 30 players at each the freshman and JV levels. That's in addition to the varsity team. His second fraudulent act is to advertise his youth camp using the names of 2 nonprofit organizations, MLK Boosters and Riverside King NJB. He has the checks for camp made out to a false NJB entity, mailed to his own house, and endorses them personally, and no money goes to either of the nonprofit organizations. Finally, Coach Sweeney holds multiple high school tournaments and 2 weeks of youth camp each summer as a third-party organization, pocketing all of the funds without paying any district utility use or district facility use fees. We've presented documentation to the district regarding these claims for the last 2 years, but we know that it's been going on for years. We're bringing this information forward because we believe that it's time for a coaching change at King High School. Our son has 2 more years at King. He's a 4.3 student in the engineering program, and he's not leaving. We believe that he and his peers who love the game of basketball should not have to endure poor treatment from a coach who cares more about money than he does about developing the kids in his program as players and young men. Finally, I will say that although it is against district policy and board policy to allow retaliation by an employee against a student whose parents have complained, our son has endured nothing but retaliation in the form of very limited playing time this season. This is exactly the reason that there are only 2 families represented here tonight. No one wants their son to be treated like Ryan Loudermilk. But I can tell you that they are watching and waiting to see what will happen. Many, many people want a change, but people are afraid to speak up. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Loudermilk. I know we will have Mr. Fine and some of our other staff. I know you've met with them, but we will follow up with some of these complaints a little bit more. Thank you.
Can I say one thing?
What do you want?
Because Mr. Loudermilk, Mr. Lau won't be here later, but I had the opportunity to talk to Principal Hanson on a related item and share with him a quote that I know that we all firmly believe in from Coach John Wooden. A coach is someone who can give correction without resentment. That is a standard that I talked to Mr. Hanson about and with Mayor Bailey about a project that we would work on together that at a future time we'll bring forward. But in Riverside Unified, as long as and I know all of the 4 of you and Mike Fine, that we believe a coach is someone who can give correction without resentment. That will be the standard I think that we'll always want to see.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Thank you, Ms. Loudermilk and Mr. Lowe. We appreciate your time. and know that we take these things very seriously. So. Next item on the agenda. I don't think we have any more public input. That was the last. We have a report from Mr. Fine, our interim superintendent. Mr. Fine.
Thank you, President Lock-Dawson and members of the board and our community. Just a couple items to make sure you're up to speed on, and then Mr. Hunt, I don't know if it's you or Dr. Lewis that are doing the next piece, but one of you are, right? It's my item, but somebody has to tell me which one of you are coming up. So I'll give you, just let me know. First is, with respect to our local control and accountability community forums, we have forum number 8 tomorrow evening, right ahead of the Mayor's Night Out at Reed Park. It is a slightly modified format, given that it's part of the Mayor's Night Out activity. So we'll have a short time for community input, but then we will be there the whole duration of Mayor's Night Out with a table for our community to continue to give us input. And then our last community forum is a week away on Monday the 24th at Poly High School, and certainly encourage those of you that have not taken the opportunity to show up or to give us input to do so. As I think the board's aware, we are up to midweek last week at about 1,600 points of input. So the process is actually working very well, and I think a great response from our community, which includes certainly our students, our teachers, and other staff, along with our parents and community members at large. So it's been a very positive thing. You've already heard reference to Party at the Plaza in one of our students' updates, but just to remind you, that is this Saturday. It usually is a great time for our community to come out and meet a number of schools that they may have opportunity to learn more about, and certainly to right ahead of the transfer window where they may elect to want to attend a school different than their home school, and therefore exercise their options under RUSD's District of Choices program. And the last thing I want to report on, because I know conversations going on out there, and the instructional committee just this afternoon had an opportunity to meet and have a conversation about the update to elementary report cards. I know there's a lot of folks talking about that. I know that you will hear some of that. Just know that that discussion's going on. Our teachers and a committee have been giving us great input, and we, as I indicated, updated Mrs. Cloud and Mr. Lee this afternoon, and we'll continue that process. I think of it realigning to the state's, to the new Common Core standards, but also to new terminology the states add, and I think we're working through a lot of those details. One of the tasks that's left for us is to turn the technical language into something that a parent would understand, because at this point we've focused on the technical aspects, and now we just simply need to kind of begin that process of relabeling things. But it will be a change that we'll bring forward to you in the coming months. And with that, I know that the Operations Committee met since our last meeting, and certainly want to give them an opportunity to update you as well.
Is that Mr. Hunt? Okay.
I think so.
Well, Mr. Hunt, you have an opportunity.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think first of all that Dr. Lewis did an excellent job in your board report of 2 Fridays ago. Mrs. Allaby and I are anxious to work with the staff and to look at what the issues, I'm talking to our peers here on the board, what the empirical issues are when it comes to operations and maintenance for our district, and then to let you know about those so you can give input through Dr. Lewis and Mr. Fine to them, and then to be held responsible to bring those forward. I will tell you there is more than we, and we have a good staff studying it, there is more than we imagined. And part of the meeting we in fact put off till later. One of it was a report on school maintenance, which we think that Orrin's put together and we're very pleased with, but it will be something we'll want to bring forward, Mrs. Lock-Dawson, to the board on a workshop. We did talk about the bulkhead, and that's on your agenda tonight. We've talked about how to solve, some of the more minute things like the problems with the baseballs at Arlington. We did begin to, and we had a misstep And I think we're going to learn from it on the STEM situation and the process that Mrs. Allaby put a lot of time of her own in, the staff put a lot of time, and then we came to a decision that we should reverse your decision, then we reversed that. And so we're going to go back and look at with Dr. Lewis and Mr. Fine how we reach decisions so we don't have a waste of our staff time on that. But I think with Kirk Lewis and his experience in this district and with Mr. Fine's experience that we'll be ready for those items. Tonight Mr. Lee asked me earlier and I think it's important that we have an understanding on Measure B. There's about $4.5 million left in it, and by God, it's our determination to spend it and to find ways to spend it. We can spend it all on air conditioning, by the way, but we will look. But there are items that are out there, as Mr. Fine brought up recently. The Ramona Auditorium is high on our list. I just wish it was as high on the state architect's list, responding to our input and our questions about the design we have. I don't know if there's anything new on that, Mike, but we will continue to look at that. But we're going to examine that and, like I said, the STEM and a lot of other things that we bring forward, and the importance of a new bond. Measure B is 13 years old, I think, Mr. Fine, is that right? And we have, when you visit our schools, and God forbid when you look at Orrin Williams' report and you see the deficiencies we have, some of them are just in basic items. It just has to happen. We need to move forward. I know I saw Mrs. Rainey the other night, and she was upset. She went to the LCAP hearing at North, and parents were complaining about the bathrooms being beat up. And she said, well, we did the bathrooms during Measure B. And I thought, well, that was 13 years ago, and kids are kids. It's just, they should treat it better, but they're young people, so they don't. But there is a lot of things that with the coming population growth and with what we have today, and we have high schools that were built for a lot less kids, Pauline North in particular, that are at them today. So I'm excited about working with Mrs. Allaby. She takes a real fresh approach, and it's certainly a one that well thought out. So I think all of us are on our toes for that and ready.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Oh, one last thing. Very quick.
Yes.
Sorry. And kudos to Orrin and to our classified staff, because to help with the professionalism on the campuses, to help them in their jobs, and the overall appearance of the district, a good step forward that our M&O folks, and I think Orrin's going to bring that forward at a later time, but have agreed to uniforms of a type that will identify that they are part of staff, and so parents and folks can know that that's not just a stranger walking around with a mop. That's actually one of our folks, and it brings, we think, professionalism. We want to provide that to them, and I want to congratulate or commend the MMO folks for backing Orrin on this. One thing, they wanted to go with the old design, and you weren't going to get that past Tom Hunt or Kathy Allaby. So other than that, everything was fine.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Next item on our agenda is our district employee group reports. And Mr. Rudd, are you here? Oh, there you are. Okay. Representing CSEA. Mr. Rudd, you have 5 minutes.
I'm not going to take that long.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mrs. President Lock Dawson, Superintendent Fine, members of the board. CSEA Chapter 506 will be having our elections for the 2014 negotiations team tomorrow. We will also be having our elections for our vacated CPRO position. The negotiations team will be attending the CSEA Bargaining Academy on February 22nd. This training is a valuable tool as we move into negotiations this year. We will also begin nominating and electing delegates to attend the CSEA conference that is going to be held in Sacramento this year. The conference is a very busy and educational time for delegates. When the delegates aren't in session for the conference, they are at seminars and learning classes for the field in which they are the members in. The chapter officers are daily working to promote and assist our members' needs and questions, from being part of the Central Labor Council to contract and disciplinary problems that may arise. At this time, I would like to congratulate our third vice president, Mr. David Tovar, who's sitting right there. Stand up. He was accepted to go to the Organizing Institute this year that is going to be held in March. It's up in Sacramento, and it's a very prestigious thing to be able to go to the Organizing Institute, because you have to put in a voucher, you have to put in why you think you should be able to go, and it's CSEA wide, and there's 200,000 members, so that's a lot of people to fight for. And also at this time, I would like to wish a speedy recovery to Richard Carpenter. He's our past president. He was in a motorcycle accident 3 weeks back. He broke his wrist and hurt his ribs, and he's recovering right now. Yes, he'll be okay. I'll probably see him.
Send him our best wishes and speedy recovery. And thank you, Mr. Rudd. We appreciate your report. All right. Now we have a report from Ms. Sandy Page from our PTA, Riverside Council. Bring your bling, Ms. Page.
Of course. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. All of our units are still working hard this year. We are posting our slate of officers for next year. They should all be posted this month because we're going to hold elections for next year in March and April. Also, our mid-year audits are due tomorrow. We also have our state PTA is having convention from May 7th to 10th in Los Angeles, so most of our units are deciding who gets to go, and it's a valuable place to be trained for our PTA. And then next Wednesday is our Reflections Award Ceremony at Central Middle School. I hope you all received that invitation. I was told you did. And we're looking forward to seeing the students' artwork and just the kids in general. We're all really excited about that. February 17th is Founders Day for PTA, and we are celebrating 118 years. Alice Burney and Phoebe Hurst started PTA 118 years ago. These two women came together with a love for books, a belief in power of education, and an undying desire to provide every child the best life had to offer. And it's amazing to me to see two determined and passionate mothers make a big difference in the lives of millions of children that they've never dreamed that they would have touched. Parents, we can make a difference, just even with a little bit of effort. I wish more parents felt the same way. Tomorrow, as council, we are celebrating our Founders Day, and thank you, President Lock-Dawson, for speaking. I really appreciate that, and looking forward to seeing all of you that said you could go. It should be a nice little celebration. It's going to be at North High School at 9 o'clock in room 323. I'm telling you where we are now. And also JW North Harlequins, I hope I said that right. They're also going to be performing also, so it should be a nice little celebration. I also know that Magnolia PTA is celebrating 100 years this year, and they have a big gala going on in March. Kennedy PTA celebrated Founders Day this year, and every year by giving away the PTA awards, the Golden Oak, Honorary Service, and a Very Special Person Award. Lake Matthews is celebrating 10 years this year, and they are celebrating it with a big spring carnival on March 1st. And our newest PTA, I had to give you your history, is actually Riverside STEM Academy. So that's our baby as you speak. And I also wanted to thank you all for having the LCAP meetings. I feel very blessed to be a part of a district that the school board and the superintendent actually want to hear what the community has to say. And thank you for listening. All the feedback that I have gotten from the meetings has been very positive, and it's just been fun to hear what people have to say. It's been very interesting to hear what parents from other schools and what their interests and what their concerns are. I was just very impressed by that. Also, when I went to the council meeting, we have that for the council presidents at the 23rd district meeting. We hold with all the other presidents from the different districts, and they actually called RUSD out and talked about how we were the only one that really did anything of importance, or it just seemed like we were doing the most compared to, and all the other presidents were kind of surprised that their districts weren't doing what we were doing. So thank you for that. And Also, I know you all have heard that Sherry Power passed away on February 9th. Thank you, Mrs. Olivier. I know you were at her service and for attending, and Mr. Fine for your kind words at the Celebration of Life service. Sherry's love for dedication for children is evident in all of her years of service on PTA. She served on council since 1999 and was currently our VP of Community Concerns. She was also president of each PTA she served on, which was many schools. She was a part of King PTA since it opened, and this was her first year that she was not a part of our board at King. This year, in memory of her, King PTA is donating $500 in memory of Sherry Power for our King High Remembers celebration. She was at that event every year. And she also was our president at Miller Middle School, and she never missed a meeting, not even during her chemo or any part of her illness. Her last act was to get a flagpole for the quad area so the students could have the flag in the middle, and she attended that ceremony just 2 weeks before she passed away. And in honor of Miller PTSA trying to give her a small tribute, we're trying to get her a little memory stone, just in honor of all that she did for us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Page. And I hope, Ms. Page, too, that your input on what the district can do better doesn't stop with the LCAP. I mean, we always hear all the great things PTA is doing, but also the bridge to the kids and the parents and what our schools need. So I just hope it doesn't stop, and we just...
Well, thank you for listening. The more I get into PTA and the higher I go, I just really see how you guys are so open to listen and to hear what we have to say. So I really appreciate that.
We love criticism because there's no way we can get better. So, well, let's say constructive criticism.
Yeah, there's criticism, but there's also a lot of positives I feel that are here in RUSD.
So thank you for your engagement and really working so hard on that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye. Okay. Next item on our agenda is our consent calendar, which we usually pass as a block of items. I am going to move approval with the, I would like to pull an item, F10, the certificated personnel assignment order. So I really can't move. I'm going to let one of you guys move that with that item pulled. Can somebody do that, please?
Actually, the bylaws do allow you, but I'll go ahead.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the bylaws do not restrict the president from making motions.
Really?
So, I will second your motion.
Okay, thank you.
With that.
All right, so I move that we approve the consent calendar with item F10 pulled. Do we need to move to speaker list first, or would you like to speak?
No, I was just going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then please vote. My light is not flashing.
I did.
I don't know if mine is not plugged in, folks. It's not flashing. So mine is a yes. If you want to move to the tally, I'm a yes. So that passes unanimously. And Mr. Fine, I would like to move the item that I pulled over to you. I would like to have you discuss that a little bit because I know you had some things you wanted to amend in that.
Thank you, Mrs. Lockdawson. We simply made a error and left one item off of this week's certificated personnel register, and it's a timely issue, and so asking you to amend that item as you would consider approval of F10 to add management promotion from teacher at Highgrove Elementary School to assistant principal at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School for Eric Fladland. And if you'll consider that, both amendment and the approval, then would be happy to introduce Eric.
Does the board have any problem with that? Somebody like to make a motion?
I so move.
Okay. So we have a motion, Mrs. Cloud, and a second by Mr. Hunt to amend item F10. Please vote. It's still not working.
You know why?
It's not
Because
flashing.
yours
I'm
says
Mike Fine.
You says Mike
Oh,
Fine. I can vote
we have
for you.
Our deliberators.
What power?
Vote for me. Here. I'm going to
Mine's flashing because mine
Do
says I'm
it.
Patricia Lockdawson.
Do it, Mike. We're going to switch. I can't get it out though. Do you want to do it? Okay, so that motion carries. And
Why we're
while you were doing that, can
Why-
we have them
playing technology here.
introduce Mr. Eric?
Back there in the corner, Eric.
Can you
is
stand,
our
please?
newest assistant.
At Jefferson Elementary. Welcome. I know it's not a brand new welcome because you've been with the district for a while, so appreciate it. Happy to have you on board. Thank you so much. Okay, so moving off our consent, we move to our action, or discussion calendar item. Sorry, discussion item. Let's see, we're going to hear about the governor's budget proposals. Is that Ms. Meekins is going to talk to us about that? So the latest on what the governor is proposing in the budget prior.
The book is green for a
Okay.
reason. More money.
Okay, green is good.
Green is good.
Not greed, green.
No, green.
Yes, thank you.
Mrs. Locke Dawson, Mr. Fine, and members of the board, on January 9th, the governor released his proposal for the state budget for 2014-15. As with every January budget release, the governor's budget clearly establishes his fiscal and policy proposals. This release initiates the deliberation and discussion between the governor and the legislature, leading us to the May revised. We will get a clearer picture of what the budget debates will be as the legislature begins their discussion. We are going to start with an overview, move to state details, and then to the impacts to RUSD. Given that the state revenues largely exceeded budget expectations, no one was surprised by the governor's $107 billion general fund spending plan. Under Proposition 98, education continues to benefit significantly from the state's economic recovery, as well as from the additional, though temporary, Proposition 30 taxes. The budget proposes the greatest increase in per-student funding since 2000-2001 due to the improved economy. Case deferrals are proposed to be eliminated. The governor's budget proposes funding for student assessment systems, but does not have any appropriation for Common Core implementation. Common Core implementation for RUSD for the current and next fiscal year totaled to $8.5 million. The governor also proposes a constitutional amendment for Proposition 98 reserve funds. This slide shows our per-ADA revenue volatility. The governor's budget recognizes historic volatility and fluctuations in public school finance, largely because of the state's over-reliance on personal income tax of its wealthiest citizens. This chart, if you'll look at 14-15, shows a 10% increase, which reflects the increase that we will be getting this year. At both the national and the state level, the economy is improving, just not as quickly as everyone hoped it would. We just received a cash update from the state controller, John Chang, who released his January report. In his report, he said revenues have surpassed the estimates even in the governor's budget by 3.3% or $387 million. The controller does caution that state spending needs to be monitored. Critical news for education. The second bullet from the bottom is there is a statewide decline in ADA. Also, the Prop 30 taxes are again temporary. The sales tax ends in 2016. The income tax ends in 2018. When the governor was asked about extending the taxes, he replied that we need to live within our means. We need to learn to live within our means. For California employment, the governor, as you can see at 2.7%, is optimistic, more optimistic even than UCLA or the Legislative Analyst's Office, who are at 2.2 and 2%. For California personal income tax, the governor has the increase pegged at 5.5 as well as the LAO, and UCLA is at 5.7. The California education spending for K-12 expenditures per ADA. This is based on 2011-12 data. The top 5 states spend approximately $17,000 per ADA. Our national average is around $12,000. California spent $8,341 while maintaining their ranking of 49 for the second consecutive year. They spent $326 less in 2011-12 than was spent in 10-11. We're hoping that this improves with the LCFF funding. Moving on from an overview to some details, Proposition 98 is forecasted to grow by $6.3 billion above the current year levels. COLA is funded at 0.86 for all LCFF base grants and for categorical programs that are outside of LCFF. 2 of the programs that we still have outside of LCFF are the After School Education and Safety Program, or ACES, and the Special Ed Mental Health. The LCFF gap is estimated to be 28.05% for 13-14. This is up from a previous 13-14 estimate of 16.49%. And the per pupil funding increases by 10.9%, or approximately $751 per ADA. There's a note on this that each school district could receive substantially more or less than the average based on our funding. Earlier I mentioned volatility and fluctuations in school finance. The governor seeks to avoid a continuation of the boom and bust cycle of our revenues. He's proposing a constitutional amendment that would mandate that a portion of the state revenue growth exceeding a minimum level would be dedicated to a special reserve fund. And within that reserve fund would be a special Prop 98 reserve to be used to smooth out the year-to-year fluctuations in the K-14 minimum guarantee. This will go a long way to avoid deferrals in the future. He also proposes continuous appropriation for LCFF. This is similar to what we used to have under the revenue limit. And since we are so used to budgets with bad news, when we get some good news, we have to temper it with some not so good news. So we have what is not addressed for education. There is no proposal for state school facilities bonds. There's no new funding to address the special ed shortfalls, no new funding for early childhood education, and no payments for prior year state mandates. I'm going to highlight some of the governor's major K-12 proposals for the $61.6 billion Prop 98 budget. He has proposed $5.5 billion to eliminate the inter-year cash deferrals. This will be one-time funds. $4.5 billion to continue the LCFF implementation. $33.3 million to fund the COLA, $316 million for energy efficiency projects, and $188 million for emergency repair programs. A quick review on how we are funded by LCFF. We are funded by grade span, with additional increases for class size reduction and career technical ed, and additional factors of supplemental and concentration grants on behalf of our disadvantaged students, our English learners, our low-income families, and our foster care. We have just received new regulations for the supplemental and concentration grants. These were adopted January 31st of this year. The districts are now required to increase or improve services for disadvantaged students. The regulations provide the methodology to determine the minimum proportionality percentage, which we will gladly call the MPP. Additionally, we are reminded as to what the EDCO definition of services is, and it includes, but is not limited to, services associated with the delivery of instruction, administration, facilities, pupil support services, technology, and other general infrastructure necessary to operate and deliver educational instruction and related services. The Local Control Accountability Plan is our tool to help move us from focusing and controlling inputs to holding us accountable for our mission by focusing on what we are doing to ensure that every child succeeds. The governor proposes no changes to the requirement that the district adopts a 3-year LCAP plan. Aligning the budget, identifying resources to carry out a thoughtful, data-driven, goal-setting plan, and putting in place a system of accountability for reflection and timely corrective action, the LCAP will be the district's most important annual policy statement. Although we've already mentioned the new funding gap of 28.05%, we should also mention that this brings us to over 1/3 of the way towards full implementation. Also a reminder that the per pupil funding increases of 10.9 or $751 per ADA comes with a caution label that individual school districts could receive more or less depending on our demographics. So moving from Prop 98 and LCFF to special education. There's a proposed 86.86% COLA, which is estimated at $4.39 per ADA. And the governor has established a special ed task force to identify the state's vision and mission for students with disabilities, along with developing goals. And for adult ed, there are no proposed changes to the current year budget agreement. We still have the maintenance of effort to maintain our 2012-13 expenditure level for the next 2 years, the current year and 2014-15. The governor does indicate his intention to make an investment in adult ed, but we have very few, if any, details. A few comments on some other proposed budgets. The emergency repair program, which I mentioned earlier, $188,000 using one-time funds. Routine restricted maintenance. Flexibility will expire at the end of 2014-15. At that time, a 3% contribution requirement returns for us in 2015-16. This is not new funding. This is a required use of state funds for us. Current year, if we had the 3%, it would be $10.6 million. Prop 39, the California Clean Energy Jobs Act, the governor has proposed $363 million for it. Some other notes about issues that could impact our budget. CalSTRS, the California Teachers Retirement System, has an unfunded liability of $804 billion, and they may exhaust their assets within 30 years. The cost to stabilize is pegged at $4.5 billion per year. There are no details on what is called the Plan of Shared Responsibility, although we have been warned that contribution rates may increase in 2015-16. Independent study. The governor recognizes the need for non-classroom-based environments to overcome issues that cannot be addressed in traditional settings, retain and engage at-risk students, and retain students who are reverting to private providers. On a special note, both Riverside County and RUSD have played a large part in the governor's proposal for independent study. Moving to the federal level, sequestration is federal speak for budget cuts. And the news for 14-15 is there will not only be relief from sequestration, but there will be a restoration of prior cuts. Not surprising, the restoration will fall short of the total cut. What does this mean for us, RUSD? The LCFF increase is estimated between $30 and $32.5 million. This is an increase over the current year funding. Please note that on the minimum proportionality percentage, the MPP, I have a correction. We received new information on the methodology provided by the state on the recently adopted regulations that provided clarification on the gap percentage. The change moves us from 3.1 million, or 3.1% to 5.7%, which is a total of $21.1 million. The special ed increase estimate is $178K, which is essentially COLA. and the impact of the elimination of remaining deferrals is an estimated $53 million in cash resources, not budget. This is a copy of our preliminary LCFF target ADA rates. As I was looking at this earlier today, I realized that I need to take it a step further and compare it to what we used to have as revenue limit. So I went to 2012, took the revenue limit and the categorical programs that are now in LCFF and got a per ADA rate of $6,182. For 13-14, our LCFF rate is $6,551. So we increased by $370 from prior year to this year. And into next year, we should go to $7,356, an increase of $804, which is over the average of $751. So what are our takeaways? Education wins big the second year in a row of positive change. Prop 30 taxes have essentially helped us and increased our education revenue and will do so for the next 7 years. The downside, healthcare costs will strain all budgets. Legislative priorities may be different than what the governor has set, and the volatility of revenue will require vigilance. The last words from the governor on his proposal was, wisdom and prudence should be the order of the day. And I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. Meekins. We do have a couple questions and comments for you, Mr. Hunt.
Could you put that slide back up, that last one, Ms. Meekins? By the way, much more clear than the last guy used to do this. So much easier to understand.
Thank you.
Going back to just, well, first of all, we win big, but so we're back at, hooray, we're back at what, 2006?
2007-8.
2007, all right, here we go. Are we hearing anything from our lobbyists about what those other political and budget priorities could threaten? Or is there any
I will have to defer to
tips on the
Mr.
horizon?
Fine
It'd be
on
good
that.
to
He
know.
won't let me speak to the lobbyists.
You're probably the staff person who need to ask this to. How come we haven't had a finance committee meeting for our board?
We will be having one on March 10th.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. What's your thoughts as we begin to plan and think about adult ed? Is it fait accompli that the governor's moving it away from K-12 completely?
Again, we'll have to, I don't know. I don't know the plan.
I don't mind you jumping in, Mr. Fine,
Go
if
ahead
you
and
want
jump.
to add anything. I think it's a question as that, for instance, our Operations Facilities Committee,
Correct.
as we look at STEMs and things like that, we want to know about this property. So, I mean, what do you forecast as what's going to happen with adult ed?
So the governor made a very important statement with respect to adult ed, and that was that he intends to fund it in the future with a standalone categorical program. So he left us hanging out there last June for the next 2 years while we engage in some planning for the future. The problem is we didn't know if the state was simply going to abandon adult ed in the future or what they were going to do. And so he made an important statement with respect to his intention here to make an investment in adult ed, very specifically in a single categorical program. So today, that $2.3 million a year maintenance of effort requirement, we have to expend that out of our general K-12 money. And that's been our argument with the state. And here he says that he intends to fund that future obligation with a new program. So that's an important statement. That brings some clarity that he doesn't intend for us to continue to drain our K-12 program in order to support adult ed, that he intends to do something different with us. Beyond that, just as Sandy indicated, the details are completely lacking.
Is it, though, going to be a K-12 or will it be a community college program?
That
responsibility.
So we believe it could be either or, depending on the consortium, but it has to be a consortium of those. So which one is the lead can vary from community to community depending on the consortium. And we're engaged with Riverside Community College District along with their other feeder districts, so Harupa, Corona Norco, and Moreno Valley, and others on that consortium planning effort.
I think it's an important discussion for us to continue, fellow members, as we look at LCAP and all this. Is where does adult ed, particularly Sacramento, is bent or his bent? Where does it play a role with us? Under the emergency funds, Ms. Meekins, the emergency, I think they were called probably maintenance funds. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. I think it was
188.
188. Mm-hmm. How do you qualify for that? And what is that? Your building's falling down, or what is that? And do we qualify? I see Mr. Williams out there. Maybe he can help answer. I don't know, but I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah.
We don't qualify for that. Okay.
Our buildings aren't falling down. Okay.
Okay. And then the Prop 39. There was how much was in that? There was second round of Prop 39. Those are energy efficiency funds.
Right,
is that correct?
316.5.
And so, how do we qualify for those?
I believe we do. We filed an application this year and qualified. So yes.
Any guess on what number we're going to end up at, or
we're still waiting to find out. They realigned the pot.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a per ADA.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Meekin. Thank you, Ms. Lockdawson.
Mrs. Cloud.
I have a couple of simple questions. I'm sure you can answer very quickly. I saw in here that I went back to look and I didn't see. Oh, there it is. Statewide ADA will decline by 7,000 students?
That is what is in the governor's budget.
Really?
Yes.
But in our USD, we're pretty stable.
We are almost flat. Yes.
But there are a lot of districts around the state that are still losing students then.
True.
Very interesting. I wanted to clarify, too, remind us and the folks in the audience, the LCFF funding goes to the district, not to the individual schools.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Based
And
on the LCAP plan.
Mm-hmm. The increase of dollars that we have go back to, Mr. Hunt kind of asked that question, go back to what, 2008, 9, sort of?
Correct.
Because we've lost like 25, 30% of our budget in the last 5 years. I know you're more exact than I am. I work in ballpark. So this is helping to restore some of the money we've lost. But it's with different priorities. So we can't spend it the way we could have spent it 5 years ago, basically. I mean, maybe,
Some of it you could. Some of it was categoricals that got rolled into LCFF. So those were definite. There were rules and procedures and policies that applied to those categoricals. So you couldn't just spend it anyway. But yes, a large portion of it would have been spent just.
It's different priorities. Mm-hmm. So this is a whole new world.
Whole new world.
Thank you, and I would urge, as wisdom dictates, I still am concerned that we're in a pretty volatile climate in California and in America as a whole. So I will believe all of this money when it's in our coffers. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cloud. Mr. Hunt has another comment.
I want to get a little clarity just for our sobering, but what is, just going back to the unfunded pension fund, how much is it? It was a B, wasn't it?
$804 billion.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can define this yet, what that means for us. It'll be equally shared pain, or are districts different one to the other on what they put in? Where do we stand?
We have no details on this whatsoever. It's something that they have just started looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it takes legislative action to change the contributions either. So I was kind of surprised to hear that they are planning on starting increased contributions in 15-16.
Mr. Fine, do you want to add anything to that, what you're hearing up there?
No, it's a critical issue, but this different than PERS. So PERS has already acted to start to increase their funding. Yeah. This is STRS. The PERS board has authority to act on their own. STRS board does not. It requires the legislature. And so it will be done in a way that is not timed with a gubernatorial election. So I don't think we'll learn a whole lot about it until after the next election cycle. But we all share, we all pay the same, every district pays the same percentage on payroll dollar.
Okay.
So we all pay 8.2% of every eligible payroll dollar into that fund. And so if they double that or they triple that, we would all share equally, I think was your question. There will also be a share to the employee. So they won't only increase the district contribution, they would likely increase the employee's contribution as well.
And lastly, on special ed, we're going to get $178,000 more, I think.
Yes.
What is our current special ed budget in the RUSD? I'm figuring you know those things off the top.
I don't know. Not off the top of my head, I don't.
So it's a small, I mean, $178,000
Is a small,
sadly
small
is
amount.
not that. I mean, $4.39
Not much.
is a Big Mac. I mean, you know, so that's where, well, a lunch at least. So, all right, so it isn't like the cornucopia has just opened upon us with all these favors from Sacramento, but it's better than it was. So thank you for your report, and thank you, Ms. Lockdoss.
Thank you, Ms. Meekins. All right, we're moving on to our action portion of our agenda. And item H1, we're going to discuss our STEM Academy housing plan. I know we have our Assistant Superintendent for Operations, Dr. Lewis, is going to lead the discussion. However, I think had gone to operations for some discussion, and we realize it's a much more integrated across lots of things. So I'm going to let Dr. Lewis speak to that.
Mrs. Lockdoss, Mr. Fine, members of the board, this item has been to you in the past, and you recall that we had two processes we're looking at. One is an interim solution to get the 10th grade class at STEM situated and accommodated for next year. And then, as you know, there's a need to look at some long-range planning to establish a permanent location for STEM. At our Operations Board Subcommittee meeting, we had a conversation about the board's action on January 21st, and as you recall, that action was to install 2 portable classrooms at the current location of the Riverside STEM Academy to accommodate the 10th grade. There was some discussion at the subcommittee level about maybe another interim housing plan. We did discuss Ramona High School as a potential location where, if you recall, where the preschool portables are next to Don Jones Park. That seemed to get some traction with the committee members. It seemed like a positive solution, but staff recommended that we take a look at it before we make a final decision. There was a meeting that was held there with Mr. Moore, Kevin Hauser, Mr. Robertson, Haley Calhoun, and Jamie Angulo, and members of the Ramona administration. And they looked it over, and I think Mr. Moore just had some reservations about that location being on the backside of Ramona, about the potential for conflicting traffic patterns. And he said, you know, on second thought, I'd rather stay where we are. And by doing so, he thought we could preclude from having to install portable classrooms by repurposing 2 other portables that are there. One's used. There's actually 2 locker rooms for boys. He thought he could condense that into 1, and then he proposed to maybe give up the daycare program that Champions has there for another classroom. So essentially, it would be a much cheaper way to accommodate the 10th grade class. We would have to look at some modifications and maybe some purchase of furniture and equipment, but certainly at a smaller scale than having to install portables on that campus. So that's the recommendation that's being brought forward to you as a whole. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. So the recommendation then is to stay at Hyatt.
Stay at the current location, repurpose 2 portables for the 10th grade class.
And repurpose 2 portables, okay, for the 10th grade class. And that's an interim solution for 2014-15.
That's correct. And then the operations subcommittee will start working on developing a process to do a feasibility study for the long-range location for STEM.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's an interim solution for the year, but I know since the beginning of the year, I've been kind of trying to get to a long-term and a short-term plan. I think I asked for a strategic plan or strategy some time ago for this, because that's obviously not going to accommodate 11th and 12th growth either. It almost seems like we can do that in the interim, but in our long-term, maybe have some kind of ad hoc committee comprised of members of the community and the board or staff. I don't know, I'd like to open up something like that to a discussion up here and talk about how that process might go. Mrs. Allaby.
Yes, thanks. The idea of having an ad hoc committee is probably the way we should do this. And I'll kind of sort of leap off of what Mrs. Locke-Dawson said. After taking this to the Facilities Committee, I realized that it really doesn't belong in the Facilities Committee, because there are really more complex issues than I think facilities can deal with. This isn't just a facilities question. There's a lot of things that bounce off its mission, its vision, maybe talking about things like whether we can even be a district-run charter, whether that's an option. These are things that we can really spend a lot of time with on the Facilities Committee. So I think we need to develop an ad hoc committee, a short-term ad hoc committee, that might take place and be completed within the length of time of one year from today. And in that ad hoc committee, we need to spend time on all of those issues and the priorities that STEM needs to make. I think the ad hoc committee should include not only members of the board and the administration, representation of course, but also STEM staff, STEM parents, and perhaps a higher ed representation of some kind, how STEM can interact with UCR, RCC, and maybe even an architect. I really appreciated our LPA architect the other day. He made a lot of good comments. And I think that we should let them explore these things, visit the sites, do the homework that's necessary, because it's more than we can do in facilities. And I know that Mrs. Locke-Dawson's job is to name the ad hoc committee, so I would go ahead not only and move for approval of our 10th grade solution, which I know we have some time issues with, but then would include in that 10th grade solution the addition of the ad hoc committee, which could be put together by Mrs. Locke-Dawson and the superintendent.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Oh.
Okay, Mr. Hunt seconded, and we're going to hold a vote until we have some more discussion. Mr. Lee.
So we've gotten a lot of feedback from the community on the STEM future in general. I personally have only been on the board now 70 days, and I feel like we haven't made any progress in the last 70 days. And I saw this item on the agenda, and I think it merits some more discussion, maybe just about the committee process. Because when I get a 3-sentence explanation regarding a brand new idea that hasn't been brought up, and this has been on the agenda 3 times since I've been on the board, it's a little hard for me to make a decision and why this wasn't brought on the table previously. So I'm not sure, again, I kind of agree with Mrs. Allaby regarding creating some kind of ad hoc committee or some kind of a workshop. So really we can just sit down as a board with staff, with stakeholders, and just hash this out, put all the ideas on the table, because it's really hard to do up here as a board in front of everybody. And I want to include everybody in the process, but I can only imagine, being a parent of a STEM kid, how frustrating it is to hear and see this item on the agenda again, when really I know that the main concern is what's the future, what happens in 11th grade, what happens in 12th grade, what's the vision, and we're talking about an item that's still on Facilities Committee. So that's still a little bit frustrating for me. Again, as the new person, I'm still learning, trying to understand the STEM. It is one of our flagship programs, so I think it is bigger than just one committee. It's something that we all should figure out soon. So I would like, I don't know if I can make a substitute motion or a motion in addition, to maybe even make it more of, instead of an ad hoc committee, but make it a workshop where I realize it'll probably take a Saturday or a Sunday of our time to do that, but that's something I think all of us board members should be a part of, since it does impact all of our trustee areas. And then, sorry, one last question for you, Mr. Lewis. So with this agenda item that's brought forth, I'm not sure how it came to fruition, but it's something, you made some mention of an after-school program that the principal is willing to let go. I'm not sure what that means and what is there existing.
Champions is a daycare program. They do have a portable that's there on the campus, and Mr. Moore felt that that we could make that for use as a regular classroom rather than a daycare program.
So what would happen with the kids in the daycare program?
We haven't had a conversation with Champions. We could look at another school that's close by that might suit their needs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. We'll come back to your suggestions when we've got a couple other speakers and we've got a public comment. Mrs. Cloud.
I have some concerns, I will say. I was a little surprised it was back on the agenda today with yet another change. We talked about portables last time. Now we're talking about why don't we look at the whole before it gets this far. I think in this case, the community, the school, everybody else has gotten ahead of the board in the information, and I hate to see that happen because, finally we're the decision makers, and I feel like it's been hopscotched through everything, and I'm not real thrilled with that. This is something we need to undertake with great deliberation. When this began, we had a series of meetings with UCR professors. Mr. Vandertil was on the board at that time, and I went to several meetings where we talked about the potential of having a STEM program. And at that time, it was, it's a big undertaking, and we were got some excitement in the community, and I realized that basically this is a pioneering opportunity, not only with STEM, but for many of our choice programs. We had a presentation this afternoon from dual language immersion programs, from core knowledge programs, and for all of those programs, it was a step of faith. I think this one has gotten a little bit ahead of us because of the longevity. We were going from 5th grade, 6th grade up through high school, adding a grade each year, and that's made it a little more complicated. And I've heard things in the community that we're talking about repurposing another school and all, and I don't like that kind of conversation because it's never come to the board and it's a rumor. But how those rumors get started, I don't know. None of that has come before the board. And I would hate for us to have out in the community that, oh yeah, we're going to turn this school into a STEM school and displace 700 students. So I just think we need to have a thorough conversation about what we're going to do. And I agree with you that we need to have look at this more thoroughly. And I think we can get to the place that not only does the STEM school benefit the STEM students, but that we have a viable solution for all of the students in Riverside without displacing one for the other. I don't personally think that's fair. So we need to look carefully at our alternatives and think thoughtfully so we don't get caught off guard again. And I'm not blaming anybody. But this certainly did get a little bit ahead of us, and I'm not thrilled with that. And I think your solution at this point, because we are about solutions, is a good one.
Thank you, Mrs. Cloud. Mr. Hunt.
Well, the first thing that happened at the Operations Committee is I got elected chairman. So I'm going to, then on behalf of the Operations Committee, which includes Mrs. Allaby and Dr. Lewis and staff, I'll apologize because we did a poor job. Mr. Moore gave information, in my understanding, up the line to Dr. Ermit, to Mr. Fine, and then to Kirk Lewis, that Ramona was going to work out. Then we find out after we had people there who probably some of them got the wrong idea about Central Middle School, Mrs. Cloud, and that's what that rumor got started. But, and we had all this backwards information. We find out afterwards Mr. Moore doesn't even go over to Ramona until after it came to the committee. Now, I said earlier, and I'm going to say it publicly, that this board up here, in the last 2 years and 2 months, has lost 80 years of institutional experience with the retirement of Dr. Beatty and Mr. Vanderzeel. That's going to change the demeanor of the people that represent the people. So, Dr. Lewis, we're not going to look at scapegoats in the past, but we've got to do this differently going forward. I don't think, Mrs. Allaby, that a ad hoc committee is... I think a workshop is much better, and multiple workshops if needed. But I'm worried that an ad hoc committee will be the tail wagging the dog. What I said in the meeting the other day was, I wasn't even sure, but I was willing because the staff had said this is what Mr. Moore and everybody thinks they want, but I'm not sure what kind of STEM school we want. And I think that's very important to understand. Do we want it to go from 5 to 12? Do we want it to be here, be there? We already know, and I think this is a realization that has to come to. Mrs. Cloud makes a great remembrance for us that we started with sort of this UCR-backed faculty and parents and all. Well, the new chancellor is very clear. Bless his heart, and he comes from Oakland. He doesn't come from Riverside, and we're not going to have an on-campus presence with him. But if it's important for us to have a presence with a university, then that certainly is going to narrow down I would think, our choices to RCC, Cal Baptist, LSU, perhaps. We don't land in LSU. So 2 places. But that's where we're going to get to. I don't want an ad hoc committee. I want them to design what the soul of a STEM school, the curriculum of a STEM school, the attendance of a STEM school should be. And then it is, you're right, the facilities committee comes back to us, and we'll do it right this time. I want Dr. Lewis, unlike last time, and unlike the way we've done things in the past, that's his job. I want to empower him to do the job and to do it right and to hold him responsible. And I know he can do it. He's been here with us forever. And you have the experience, you understand it, you know the facilities. We need to hire we need to look at the best models out there. And then when we get to the brick and mortar part, just like when you plan a family, if you have a family of 12, don't go buy a 4-bedroom. So if you're going to do that, get the right size. And if you want them to be on the bus line, be close to the bus line. It's just not that hard to figure out. What is it, Dr. Ermit and Mrs. Paredes and Mr. Fine, that we want in a STEM school? Just figure that out for me. Tell me that. Are we going to have relationships with RCC? Is that what the idea is? By the way, RCC comes not from Oakland, but from Riverside. So I would guess we and the people that sit in these chairs well beyond us are going to have a much better relationship and chance with RCC than we're going to have with our friends at UCR. That said, we should keep all communications open. Remind the chancellor, as Mrs. Lock-Dawson and I did that day, that this is the district your employees are going to put your students, their students, their kids in when you try to recruit them to come here from Iowa or the university of this or that. So you ought to want us to be the best darn school district in this area because it's going to help you. And I think he gets that part. But I don't see us on that campus. I think RCC is a whole different thing. But I think we should have a workshop. If Mrs. Allaby would accept Mr. Lee's substitute, not substitute, but inclusion motion.
Yeah. And I think I want to bring some clarity to what this is going to look like, and I'm going to defer to Mrs. Albee. But my understanding of the ad hoc committee would be that it would function in a workshop format. Is that what you were thinking? We would have a series of workshops, but the idea that it's ad hoc is truly ad hoc, that it's specifically for the STEM school and the planning of the STEM school, and that it is a defined period of time with a defined series of objectives and milestones so that we get to where we need to be, which is exactly the stuff you brought up.
Yeah, I just don't want us wasting people's money and the people's resources and a clicking calendar, because apparently this is going to take us through next year. But this baby keeps growing, praise God, but he keeps growing, so we got to do something with him. And obviously, if it comes down to, if the academic side of this house says, we need and we would benefit through a relationship with a college. Well, we've got a campus across from a college. That's probably, and we got 2 pieces of land, not too far. And we know that the bus line is changing, about to be a lot less expensive and more expedient. Those things all have to come into play. But I really think, as Mrs. Allaby said earlier, we need to understand what it is we're trying to do here holistically, who we're trying to attract. Tom Hunt still asks the question, what if the kid wants to play track? Answer that question for me. Help me understand if he wants to be a cellist, as his mother said, a well-rounded student. Help me understand those things. And then let's see if we can get some agreements with these partners, if that's where we want to go. And it takes such a god-darn long time to get something done in K-12 California through the Department of State Architect. We needed to start.
Okay,
ASAP.
Mr. Hunt, let me go back to Ms. Albee. I don't mean to cut you off, but we've got some speakers ahead, and we've got some members of the public. Mrs. Albee, you're next on the list. Can you clarify some of that?
Yeah, and I don't want to personally intend any ill will towards anybody on the staff, so please don't take this personally. But they should have done this 2 years ago, and they didn't. And This is not going to be solved with us sitting up here on a dais and having some workshop out there. There's a lot of homework that needs to be done. There's a lot of sitting and crunching numbers and looking at these different facilities and talking about what the STEM parents want and talking about their needs. This is not something that I think can be done in a couple hours, I'm telling you. This has got to be worked out. And you've got to have buy-in from the parents. And you've got to have buy-in from the staff. I'd really like to hear what STEM staff has to say. So I'm just saying, it's not that easy. And I don't know that staff, which hasn't done it in 2 years, is going to whip this thing out. I don't think so. I think we need to rely on a little bit more of a democratic process and bring this group together and do it systematically and set them up with some timelines. Like Mrs. Lock-Dawson says, I'm perfectly willing to make it a step-by-step and in a short time frame.
And my understanding, just from what, I don't know, it's my interpretation, but it's not going to take a bunch to get it together. We're just going to, I'm going to set up the committee tonight, and we're going to get going on it this week and have it started. And
I think we
clear
have to start it
definitions.
immediately, because even if we vote to go ahead and approve this 10th grade plan, which to me, we have to, because it's the only way that's going to make sure that the 10th grade plan actually takes place next year for the 10th grade, we have to be making plans right now with all of those communities that I spoke about right now for all the rest of the ultimate end. And we can't put it off, and we can't have staff monkey around with this. This needs to be very holistic from the ground up, I believe.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Cloud. Mrs. Cloud, you're next.
I would just like to clarify, when I was talking about how it began, that was basically a committee of thoughtful people coming together to look at this who are more experts in their field than we really are. So I don't see why we can't do both. Have an ad hoc committee of the experts working at the details who then bring it to us in the workshop forum. That's how we're going to need to get in there and find out what's going on. And the other thing I would suggest is when we're talking about relationships and scientific connections, I think that I would suggest that that goes before the instruction committee, because that is exactly where it belongs. We're looking at at least keeping the board informed about the kinds of things we're looking at.
I think that's your intent. And I also think, going back to Mr. Hunt's comment about RCC versus UCR versus CBU, I would like to have decision makers from the higher ed institutions at the table. And this is nothing against the professors at UCR, but when we speak to parents of children and professors there, it's a different story than when we go speak to some of the policy and decision makers at UCR. So I think we need to have both at the table. And that'll give us a full spectrum of options within those higher ed institutes. I'm going to let Mr. Fine go, and then we have some parents that are really eager to speak. So I'd like to hear from them. Mr. Fine, can you be brief? And
Just a couple observations. First, I think you've all said it, just in different ways. We must start with what we want in a high school STEM instructional program. This isn't about facilities first. It's about what do we want as an instructional program. And we'll craft the facility around what it is we want as an instructional program. Whether that's staying forever where they're at, whether it's moving to A, B, C, or constructing X, Y, or Z. But I think the discussion, and you've all alluded to it tonight, we must back up and start with the question, what do we want in a 9-12 STEM program? Or 5-12, define it either way, but what's really before us is how do we move forward? The second thing, however we go about it, in my opinion, there's no reason to set a date out of a year. But let's set the date of May or June to be back and have this back before you for a decision that moves forward. And that may involve several presentations to the board, whether it's from a committee or a workshop or whatever between now and then. But let's work towards a decision about how we're moving forward beyond 1 year, no later than June 30th or whatever's comfortable. But I just don't think it needs to be a whole year from now. I think we all recognize that we've been at this a while, and in my mind, there's no reason to wait beyond that.
Mr. Lee?
Sorry, one more quick thing. So when STEM was created or since, has there been a strategic plan or anything adopted? And has it been revisited? And in that strategic plan, does it have a 9/12 vision?
I don't know that I would call it a strategic plan. The idea was always to grow at a grade a year. We knew that in its first couple years that we couldn't just sit idle, and I think that's in part your comments here, that we needed to be thinking about when we got to 9th grade this year and 10th grade next year, and that certainly slowed down. So has there been thought given to a master schedule and what that looks like, what would be offered there in that program and not offered? Absolutely. There's been thought. Is it the right thing, the right mix of things? Sitting here today, I think that's up for discussion. But to say that there hasn't been thought on those details would be wrong. There has been several times.
Okay, Mr. Hunt, please, and then we'll move to public comments.
Let's also, I would like to hear from Mr. Fine and his academic wing, Mrs. Paredes and Dr. Ermit. This is a great problem to have, first of all. You know, let's remember, we're not starting somewhere, we're just going to refine it. We all want to do it. Good news, it's been done before and successfully, San Diego's High Tech High, places like that. If need be, let's spend the money to get an advisor in here that's been down that road, that's helped. This is really, the whole thing is the curriculum, by the way. At the end of the day, walls don't matter as much, particularly in today's world. So it's about the curriculum, what we want to offer. So let's get the right people to augment our own in-house intelligence, our own parents who work at, you know, all these things, but have someone who's gone down this path before so we can miss those bumps and potholes and expedient way move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. So we have a couple members of the public would like to call forward. Remember, your time is limited to 3 minutes. Sandra LaHood-Byerman. Ms. LaHood-Byerman, welcome. Thank you
Yes,
for coming.
hi. Thank you for letting us speak out on this topic. And I think what Mr. Fine and Mr. Hunt were saying are very critical, that we do need an organized plan. I must say I'm very appreciative of Ms. Alave and Ms. Cloud's presentation. When we did first start STEM, I was there in the audience and have been from the day one. And they have worked very hard, and to some degree I think they're underappreciated in the idea that some people think that it's bumping along, and to some degree it is, but they got it off the ground. And I think people need to appreciate that more, because it's a very complex program. And I think the point about curriculum is the correct idea. The walls are not important. STEM is ranked 6th in the state. You have a school that's 6th in the state. Do you want to let go of that? That's all I have to say. You do not want to let go of that. If you let go of that, you won't get it back. If you move it to Ramona, students won't go. I know that that will happen as a parent, and I am also a teacher. I work at Central. So your rumors, I hear them. I'm in a unique situation in that I'm a teacher there. I'm a parent in the district. And so I want to say, thank you. I want to thank Mr. Fine for keeping our district solvent during some of the really tough years. During years other districts couldn't stay solvent. And I know Mr. Hunt, wants a lot of feedback in your meetings, criticisms. But you've done a good job with the STEM. And I know other people may feel a little more heated. I'm very happy, but I do want to see a resolution. I have a son going into 9th, so do I want to make that investment? I'm really right on the edge, and I would like a decision. Mr. Lee made a good point. We're stumbling along. A final decision would be very helpful. My son was the only student in the district who went to state twice in science fair for middle school, and that was because of STEM. So thank you.
Yes, Mr. Hunt would like to ask you a clarifying
Just a clarifying question, ma'am.
Fireman.
Ms.
Can you
Ironman?
please come back up?
Just a quick clarification. Just help me understand. I'm sure all this. if it's at Ramona, my son won't, or nobody will go there. What does that mean?
Well,
Integrated
it's
into
location.
Ramona?
It's location because, in my mind, if it's at Ramona, you won't get the input. You're not going to have people who I think can go there every week to get. My son attends a seminar every week given by a professional. And I think if you move to location, that will dissolve, which will, you were talking about curriculum being important, that will dissolve the curriculum if that's moved. Only simply location. That I just think that location will just cause problems with that interaction with, my husband's a professor at UCR. He couldn't come because he's coaching Science Olympiad. Otherwise, he would be here. But, you know, the people do want to be involved. Parents do want to come. People want to give talks. Parents want to help. We were talking about, you know, reaching out. And we're here and we want to work with you. And we're, you know, very happy you started this program. But to be ranked 6th is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to hang on to that. And I don't think you should let go of it.
But help me understand. I miss it. Is Ramona a problem for you in that where it's located in the city, or that the idea we're going to? So you need to have it. You feel it needs to be more along the Magnolia Spine, but towards downtown. Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yes.
Okay. And that's because you feel we need to have a relationship. Well, why is I don't quite understand.
Well, if I remember correctly, Ramona doesn't seem to be located very close to too many other institutions of higher learning compared to some of the other choices.
Okay, so that's your. It's not that we merge it with the school. It's just the geographical location of Ramona is too westerly.
That's it.
If that's okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Bahram Mobashir. Welcome, Dr. Mobashir.
Thank you.
Please.
I wasn't going to talk today, but I thought I should repeat myself. I'm sorry to have to repeat myself, but the curriculum is important, and that's the main thing. And I believe, as I said before, that if you have the right students and right teachers, as we have at STEM, it's no matter. You could have it in a shopping mall. So the main thing is to keep the students together and to keep the teachers together. Unfortunately, what I've been hearing from the board is the circular argument, and since November this has been happening. If this argument is gotten ahead of the board, then it's good news. It's the problem with the board, but it's not moving fast. We need to move fast to get things done, and there is not much time to just argue and just go around the circle again. And if over the last 2 years where we have the system, we don't know what it is or where it is going to go, then it's again bad news. So we have the curriculum there, and everything is there. But what they need is management. What we need is direction. And we need to move ahead with it. And here is again what I have to unfortunately repeat myself, that what we need is firstly full-time teachers. We need full-time math teachers, full-time literature teachers, and these are the basics we need for next year. And we have to move on in doing so quickly. We have to recruit teachers now. We need, we have to decide as soon as possible where the 10th grade is. We really need to do that so the parents and students know where they're going to be next year. We need to see where the extension of the program is going to be, the 11th and 12th grade. We need to decide about that. And we really don't have much time to do it. We just need to do it as soon as we can. The geography is not important. The content, the substance is important. And this is my main fear, that we might lose that by delaying the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mobashir.
I forgot to say, this ad hoc committee is a great idea, and workshop is even better. Thank you.
Linda Jenkins. Ms. Jenkins, where are you? Thank you, Ms. Jenkins.
Thank you very much. Good evening, esteemed board members and Mr. Vine. I welcome the opportunity to speak on behalf of the parents of Riverside STEM Academy. Riverside STEM Academy has been a wild success for the 5th and 8th grade program, as demonstrated by one of the highest API scores for a middle school in the state. With an economy that requires such science and technologically prepared adults, no one can argue the need for such programs and the results that have been demonstrated this far. The waiting list is an example of this need. As an advocacy group, our PTSA held an open forum for our parents and have prepared a list of comments that have come from the parents. I was surprised myself at those diverse comments and feedback that we had heard in terms of the perceived needs and the wants. Oh, I'm spitting into the microphone, sorry. The perceived needs and the wants of these parents. And it was apparent to me that what was not clear was a shared vision by those parents. Everybody has an idea of what STEM should be, and I think I've just heard it reiterated up here. Everybody has a great idea of what they think it should be. Just in the comments alone, I've heard of 3 different models of this sort of a school, high-tech high school, John F. Kennedy Middle College in Corona, and then also something that we're actually forming at our STEM high school, a very strong collaboration with UCR. And I'll speak to that real quickly, Mr. Hunt, when we heard that the new chancellor is not too interested in collaborating on an official level. We kind of do things differently here in Riverside. You know, if they are not going to be up front and want to do it, we take the collaboration ourselves. We have a teacher in the audience here who has no less than 15 grad students that are mentoring our students. That's free. That's not in the budget. It's free. They're mentoring our students. One little guy, one PhD candidate rolls over on his skateboard from UCR. So location is important, not as important as keeping everybody together and funding the full-time teachers. So more importantly, PTSA would like a clear, thoughtful, communicated plan for the development of the high school. It's difficult to know where you're going or to commit the education of your child to the unknown. Without this plan, the high school will wither. Let's capitalize on the success that we've had with the 5th through 9th grade program and continue to grow the STEM high school. The second most important comment was that it was difficult to establish a world-class STEM school while trying to piecemeal it together with part-time resources. I know Dr. Mobasher already addressed that. It was voiced loud and clearly that our parents want the same opportunity for the high school to thrive as any other fully funded 9th through 10th grade of a new high school. It's a critical point for RUSD. It's the success of the school so far has been a testament to the need. We are more than happy to help and support and provide resources as well. And then to address real quickly the question about Ramona, one of the reasons that came up in our parent comment was that it'll separate the middle school from the high school. That's a really nice dynamic that we have. However, we're not too interested in having 5th graders on the same campus as a regular high school. Also, we like to take advantage of that UCR RCC connection or some sort of mentorship program. The kids really are connecting with that. And so, last but not least, time is of the essence, because right now we are putting kids in 10th grade. This is a great interim. I know you want to go to Stanford or MIT. I'm not sure where you're going to go to high school next year. So I like your idea about having an idea or some plan by June or May, even better. I know we don't want to rush it. We want to do a good job, but we're here to help and think it's a great program. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. It's very helpful to summarize the comments because we do have a lot of, are hearing many, many things, and I think that's the reason Mrs. Alde is suggesting workshops, or Mr. Lee as well, so that we can hear those and consolidate them. Thank you. I will, I think one of the reasons, too, it's important for us to go back to the workshop idea, like Mrs. Cloud was saying initially, and one of the things this board has struggled with is the number of options that we have, and then the level of rumor that is out there. And for example, I know we've heard things like the chancellor is interested, the chancellor isn't interested. Well, I know when Mr. Hunt and I met with the chancellor, he was adamant he didn't want it on the campus, but maybe not another idea. There's other ways to work this. I personally did a lot of background research on the UC system, and there are policies in place for the UC that talk about working with community schools. There are 4 such schools in this system. And I shared that with the chancellor. I shared that with Mr. Moore. I shared it with Dr. Ermern as well. There are ways to make this stuff work, but unless we have the kind of staff work and information and resources, we can't make a decision. We just can't. I mean, we just need it. All right, we're going to move to a vote, but I have one more comment from Mr. Hunt. And Mrs. Alvey, I'm going to ask you to clarify your motion when we get Mr. Hunt.
Just a question for Mr. Fine, so I understand, because does Riverside Unified's Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math School not have full-time science and math teachers? I keep hearing this, and so I want to make, just give us an update where things are and why.
So it's like every school. It has full-time equivalents to support the master schedule. And I believe in STEM's case, Mrs. Alvey brought this up at the last meeting, it has...
What does that mean in real language, Mr.
It has
Mr.
3
Fine?
full-time...
Tell us, what does that mean?
I'm trying to get there. It has 3 full-time math teachers, and it has 1 part-time math teacher. Every school in the district, secondary school in the district, has an element of part-time teachers, because we staff to the need of the master schedule. In most schools' case, given their size, that part-time assignment, if I can say that, part-time, comes from an existing full-time teacher who teaches an extra period and is paid for that. In STEM's case, a couple options. Number one, they split a teacher with another campus, so that teacher travels, which is common in a number of our campuses. Or in the one case of a math assignment, that teacher is actually only teaching 2 periods. They don't have any other assignment at STEM or in the district. And so that was a staffing, there's quite a bit of history behind that particular part-time person that I don't think is probably appropriate here. It's a personnel issue, but where there were some other options available that weren't exercised.
Would that be a discussion? I mean, we've got to, everything needs to be equal and all that, but would that be a discussion when we look at the full view of where we want to see STEM be at sometimes cap, that we would commit, if it is, I mean, what you're saying basically it's a ratio of kids to teachers and all, right? Is that a discussion and something that we'd want to explore, that we would overly commit to STEM? I mean, and that's a decision we can make, and it's a decision we're going to have to live with if we make it. We have to explain to the Ramona parent why we're doing it. But we can overly commit to a STEM. Is that something we should look at as well?
Absolutely, and that's why I go back to my point. What is the instructional program you want there? Right. STEM is never going, just to use a completely different example, but maybe easier to put your head around, STEM is never going to have such a large band program that they could support a full-time band teacher, as an example. Right. Do you want a full-time part of that instructional program? You want a very robust band teacher or band program, music program, strings program, all of those types of things, then you would over-allocate for that purpose.
Well, I think that's part of Mrs. Alvey and I've had this discussion. I keep saying, well, what happens to the kid who wants to play the cello? And she's, part of it's going to be what you're going to give up maybe to go to STEM school. So we have to understand that, and they have to understand when we market it to them what that's about. And one last question. I want to be sure that, Mrs. Jenkins' comment. Help me understand. There's a difference between like a middle school that Alvord has with, or Norco has with the campus college, right? I mean, that's different than a STEM school, right? And I'll remind my colleagues and the committee and the audience that this board is not just responsible for STEM. We need to talk about our continuation schools and the growth of our virtual campus and those things too. Those all need to be part of this.
Yeah, I think,
just the first child.
And we'll get to that. I do. I think that's all important, and I don't want to brush that under the table. I know, but the topic on the agenda tonight is STEM. So I think the
that
questions...
is different though than a middle school, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And the questions you brought up, Mr. Hunt, are all things that I think will come out in the workshops or the committee, whatever. So I am going to let Mrs. Alvey make a motion, and then we will vote on that. Mrs. Alvey?
Let me see if I can't take Mr. Lee's input and make this better. I don't have to call it an ad hoc committee. I can call it a series of workshops if you prefer. But I know that I want a multifaceted amount of people to be a part of this. I want staff to be a part of it and parents to be a part of it, and I want the input that everybody is going to have to bring to this table, to this topic. I want them to look at how the vision and the curriculum works with what they need for facilities, because that's all part of it. So I would make a motion that we accept Dr. Lewis's plan for 10th grade with the you don't call them portables. Repurposing, thank you, the portables, and that we create a ad hoc workshop committee.
I'm good with it. I know what you
that will take place in Mr. Fine's time frame, which is tighter than what I had originally envisioned, but I like that better, and that it will incorporate all those groups that we talked about, coming to some sort of solution, maybe by the summertime.
Can I add to that with a long and a short term?
Yes.
Strategies and plan.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll accept it under the second. If it includes also discussion, I want the staff to report on the charter aspect.
Oh, I think that's part of it.
The district-run charter has to be part of
I mean,
that.
we
That's
have to
be
look
part
at
of the
everything.
discussion. We have to look at everything.
I think that's why we need to. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do all the board members understand the motion? It was a little convoluted, but I think we get it. And parents understand what we're doing out there and how we will be working with you. I will create the committee, and Mrs. Alvey and I can discuss. Perhaps Ms. Alvey, you'd like to chair the committee. I don't know. We can vote
Thank
on
you.
that
I'd love
too.
to.
But okay, and we will be in touch with the parents and staff and members of the community. So we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Okay, that motion carries. Stay tuned. You have a spot for 10th grade and even more fabulousness to come because as you all know, you must hear the passion in all of our voices. No, we don't want to let this go. No, we don't want this out of our hands. We love STEM. It is a great program. It's a great jewel. So your board takes it very, very seriously. We are very passionate about it as well. So thank you all for your interest in STEM. I would like to call for a 10-minute break, and we'll reconvene at 8 o'clock. I'm sorry for those of you that are here for the next agenda item, but we will come back at 8. Thank you. Okay, I've been admonished by the gods of live streaming that we need to get back on our schedule here. So please come back and we'll get back underway. Dr. Lewis, long time no see. You are our next item, too. Item H2, our 7-11 committee membership. Does that come with a Slurpee when you join the committee? Sorry, couldn't resist. Okay, Dr. Lewis, please talk to us about the 7-11 committee.
I think I can make this pretty brief. Just a quick background. The 7-11 committee is a board advisory committee. In fact, I asked members of the board to submit names for the committee. We do have to have a stratified sample of folks, so we have to include administrators and teachers as well, and so I backfilled with some of those. What I brought to you today is a list from the Operations Board subcommittee that we presented. They recommended to move forward to you as a whole board. And the nominations, I should tell you, I've talked to all of the folks. They're all willing to serve. Many of them are parents of students who have gone through our system and have graduated. In fact, many of them are graduates from RUSD schools. So we have a good group of folks to work with us. Their task will be to meet and review the properties that we've talked about. We have Cleveland and Myers, the district office, the Grant Education Center, Hawthorne 1, and then the property next to King on Van Buren. And they'll review statistics and information about those properties, and we'll be coming back to make a recommendation to you whether they should be considered for surplus, and then you can decide whether you want to move forward with that or not. So they're not a decision-making board, they're an advisory board to you as the whole board. As you can see, the nominations are Raul Ayala, Oswaldo Barajas, Finn Comer, Shani Dahl, Bob Garcia, Chuck Krieger, Tim Maloney, Christopher Manning, Stephanie Stenderfer, Matt Webb, and Michael West. And I think maybe some of the members are here tonight.
Yeah, we do. We have a few in the audience, and I would like to recognize them if you don't mind, Dr. Lewis. Shani Dahl. Bob Garcia. We don't get enough of you, Bob. That's why we had to put you on that committee. Tim Maloney. Is Tim here? I didn't see Tim tonight. No, he's not here. Stephanie Standerfer, the amazing Stephanie Standerfer. And Mike West. Is Mike in the audience? There he is. And as a board, we have to thank you for your time. We know it's not easy giving up time from your families and making time for this, but it's really important. I think every one of the board members up here selected the folks they nominated very carefully because we feel that you're going to make the best decisions for the district.
Mrs. Lock-Dawson, Mr. Ayala.
Oh, Mr. Ayala, is he? Oh, he's here. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, I apologize, Mr. Ayala. I'm sorry. I missed you back there. Thank you. So, okay. Well, thank you all. Mr. Hunt would like to say something.
Move approval of this item.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Hunt and Ms. Cloud. Motion and a second. Please vote. Okay, that motion carries. Welcome to the 7-11. Thank you. Now go get a Slurpee. No, okay. Are you next up again? I have to go back to my agenda. Dr. Lewis.
For the next two items.
Sorry. Okay, well, item H3, we're going to be talking about the Art Littleworth Theater and modifications that are proposed for that.
Just a quick background. Marco Ekra from HMC has been working with the Communications Board Subcommittee and looking at some options for just have a better recognition of Art Littleworth. So to honor him, they were looking at some items including signage, including improvements to the lobby. And it's just strictly in the conceptual phase. You'll see in your board packet some, conceptual ideas of what types of scope of work that could be included. The recommendation for tonight, coming from the Communications Subcommittee, is to move forward with the signage. Its estimated cost is about $7,000. You'll see the lettering. The theater lettering is close to 4 feet. It'll be facing Victoria Avenue. It'll be a very nice feature, very appropriate for honoring Art Littleworth. The other recommendation is to allow the design process to continue so that they can look at accent lighting, floor covering, painting. A mural's been put together that looks very nice, which has Best and Krieger as a partner with that. And that could conceivably cost up to about $42,000. So the recommendation is two. One is to move forward with getting the exterior signage installed, and the other is to approve the design process for the interior modifications.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Mrs. Allaby?
I would like to clarify this item. Yes, the signage on the outside, I would like you to approve the $7,000, but it was never our intent that the interior of this go up to $42,000. This is Mr. Eckert thinking wildly, because when I saw those figures, I said, that's not what we were thinking at all. But I think we need to get your approval to start some sort of process where he looks at some of these items, but I think this is way too much money, and I wouldn't ever agree to spend this much money on the lobby.
I think when we had initially talked about, we were talking like $15,000 or less,
yes.
right?
So if what we want to do can't be done with $15,000 or so, then we'll rethink it. Best and Krieger's already donated the mural, so that's already a done thing. It was the lighting that turned out to be so expensive. I didn't realize he's got an amount here of $17,000 just for the lighting inside the lobby. And that's crazy. But I am asking you that we continue the process here and get him to continue working on it so that we can get this project done by this fall.
Okay, Mr. Hunt?
Allaby or Dr. Lewis, go back to the exterior if you could. Is this going to be, and it's great if it is this going to be our font? Do we have a stylist book, or what do you call that? We should have a font we use everywhere, so we don't have them all different kind of fonts unless they're historical, like a mag.
This is the font that the architects came up with. If you have one.
No, I just want to know. If your committee liked this font, I think. Secondly, I want to make a comment. I think these type of items, as we get into the brick and mortar of it, should go to the operations committee that you and I are on.
Actually, I suggested to Dr. Lewis that this go to operations.
But that's fine.
But then he said it needed to go back to communications because that's where it started from. So I've had a little bit of...
I'll disagree with Dr. Lewis on that, because when it comes to brick and mortar, just like Mrs. Cloud did very well,
Okay.
When it comes to academics, it's the instruction committee. When it comes to software, it's the instruction committee. When it comes to the hard case, it's our committee. If that is, I want to make a motion to approve up to $10,000 as to what is needed to do the outside of the theater. The reason I changed the number is just because I want the communications committee to rapidly look at and come back with a style book. That the style that we use on our letterhead, on our buildings, etc. Now we have some very old buildings like Magnolia, and I know when the sign fell, the G fell, and Mr. Lee brought that up. Perhaps that has a traditional type. Maybe that's a different kind of font. I don't want to monkey with their font because that's with our older schools. But as we go forward on our signs, we should have, as a business, as a district, one font that we use, one stylist, and all those sort of things. So, but I make a move to get this approved up to $10,000. We need to honor this man as soon as we can.
Okay. Let me move to Mrs. Cloud, please, and table that. Mrs. Cloud, do you have a comment?
Well, I could second that. I mean, but I'm just looking at it, and I sat on the committee for the first time the other day, and I'm looking at this, and I don't want to be too detail oriented, but it's Arthur Littleworth we're honoring, not the theater. And so, you know, I'm just looking at this, and theater is big, and Arthur Littleworth is little. Is that what?
Yes, because Arthur Littleworth was very long, and theater is very small.
Well, it does match well here. I can see that, but
that is my point, is that there should be a style book
No,
that says names are a certain font compared to the size of the building font.
Well, there's nothing about that but they're to be architectural pleasing. But we were matching the style of lettering that already exists at Poly, and to me it seems like every school is
kind of unique.
And Poly has this kind of modern 60s style of lettering. They've already used it over there by the pool. So we're just using the same lettering.
Yeah, it was consistent with what was on site, I think is what it was.
Like I said, it's not a deal breaker or anything like that, but it.
Well, if you wanted to use Arthur Littleworth as big as theater, we would be going across that.
Maybe he needs a smaller name. How about Arthur Little?
So, okay, so Mrs. Alavi, I'm going back to you because you're next up on the list, and then we'll come back to Mr. Hunt. How do you want to proceed?
So, Mr. Hunt, would you amend your motion to stay with the outside letters, but then to go ahead with approval of the planning process, not spending the money for the improvements in the lobby, but just the planning process for
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Certainly.
Thank you. And Mrs. Clark?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Okay, Mr. Hunt, did you have something else to add?
And I appreciate Mrs. Alavi's explanation. I'm fine if Arlington's going to have a different sort of font that fits them versus North, and I'm okay with that. Let's just put it down somewhere so we know that's the way it is. And in the future, if we're going to name it the Sammy Smith Gymnasium, Sammy's name is 2/3 is the size, whatever. I mean, if the physical part that belongs to the people is identified and it is smaller. But just have some sort of, so we've got a plan going forward. But thank you for your hard work on this and honor of really a great Riversider and a school board member.
Okay, before I move to Mr. Lee, I just got to say, $42,000. Wow, how did it get there?
Totally.
Mr. Lee.
An architect.
Kathy kind of answered my question. I was going to ask about the second part of that item on the agenda about the 42,000 because she mentioned a different number. So we're just ignoring that second part right now.
We would never. That was never our intention to have you.
But we're going to
approve.
spend something.
We're going to spend something, but it was more on line of about 15.
Well,
but we don't have that to give to you tonight because we don't have it designed.
We do have a contribution from one of our partners to pay for the mural. Is that correct? Were they going to bear the cost?
$2,500.
So we do have the cost offset somewhat with that, but that takes it down to $39,000. So we really do need to revisit the costs on that and seeing where we could identify some efficiencies there.
I wouldn't ask you to approve that.
Okay, so all right, Mr. Hunt.
I'm all in favor of spending money to honor Art Littleworth, particularly on the outside there. If we're going to go that elaborate, and it is a wonderful story, it's a high watermark for Riverside, I still would ask the committee to look at making that kind of presentation in this room where everyone can see it. Because I think a North student should know what Art Littleworth and that board and that staff, that superintendent did, but he has to go to Poly to learn it. It's going to be a little tough. But if he came here, so I just would ask you to consider that again. If this thing grows beyond, and I thought it was like a $10,000 thing that inside too. I think it's wonderful, but I wish you would have some consideration in this room as well, or other.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. So we have a motion and a second, and the motion was to at least approve the exterior signage. No, up to $10,000, I think was Mr. Hunt's motion.
For the exterior signage.
And then...
And the design of the interior.
Okay. All right. So please vote. Oh, did we have a second? I'm sorry.
Yes, I think.
Mrs. Cloud, I'm sorry, Ms. Cloud. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lewis, for all your work on this. It's another one of those things I would like to just see wrapped up and done. Okay, next item on the agenda is the bulkhead. Dr. Lewis, back up again. You talked to us about the bulkhead at Poly High School.
Sure. Again, this was an item that the Operations Board Subcommittee undertook on their February 3rd meeting. They asked to move the item forward to the full board for your consideration. The estimated cost is $210,000, with Measure B funds being the source of funding. It's rather just an equipment purchase that has to be assembled and then placed possibly by crane to where its ultimate destination will be. The pool was designed for docking of the bulkhead at one end. The main feature of a bulkhead is that you can reconfigure the pool to for different events. You can have dual events happen at the same time, and you don't have conflict of water going, conflicting with the other events. So that's the primary advantage of the bulkhead. Certainly, Mr. Hunt or Mrs. Alavi can comment. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Mrs. Alavi?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I was disappointed that the bulkhead never was included originally when we built the pool, because it totally doubles the use of the pool for different uses, for water polo tournaments, for different kinds of things that you could do, for different kinds of meets that you might have. It makes it a much more usable pool if we rent it out for different uses to people in the community. So that was one of the reasons why I went and approved the measure.
Okay. Mr. Lee?
Did Mr. Hunt chime in too on this one? Did you push your button?
Yes, sir, I did.
Can I let Mr. Hunt go first?
Okay, sure.
You going to contradict what I say? Or
It's your committee.
Well, really, for Mr. Lee's benefit, too, because I know that it looks like we've been sitting on some of this for a while. Actually, the bulkhead got caught in the abyss of the North Stadium, and we froze everything, and so we didn't do the bulkhead. But Dr. Beatty who was, as you may know, in his background with teaching physical ed, was an advocate strongly for swimming. And so we asked Dr. Ermit and Mr. Robertson, who oversees our physical education programs, and they have assured us that, and it's very important to us, that the physical ed will include swimming. And so at a 50-meter pool, the non-experienced swimmers, not the polo players and the swimmers, but kids who are just learning, first time they've been in a pool, many of them are around a pool. A bulkhead is an important safety item, and I would ask for your consideration on this. I think it's an important item that shouldn't have been left out, but was left out for good reasons. And then, to Dr. Beatty's credit and to Mr. Robertson's work, verified that, and I think even advanced, that swimming will become an important part, an annual part of our curriculum in our high schools, Poly included.
Did you want to add anything, Mr. Lee, before I move on?
I think that the bulkhead would make a great addition to the Poly pool. I graduated from Poly. I was a swimmer. I was a water polo player. And we were limited by what we could do in the pool that we had because of the depth. So we had to go out to Bobby Bonds. I can see a lot of the benefits of collaborating with different community groups to get real good use out of the pool. And I also see this on the other side of things is that Measure B funds are rapidly dwindling. We have very little money left, and there's lots of needs in the district that need to be addressed, one of which is the Ramona Theater. And I believe there's estimates on, still with the state architect, about what that's going to cost, but in the range of $5 million, and I think we don't even have that much money left. So my concern is that Ramona Theater is going to get shortchanged, and that is also a facility that gets used by community groups. We're just there for the science fair, been there for other events too, for the school district. So not knowing the finality of what's going to come back and what the final price tag is going to be on the Ramona Theater, I just think it's important that Ramona gets a fair share too. Poly has their flagship pool now, spent millions and millions of dollars, which is wonderful. I love it. I think it's great. But if we end up shortchanged, if we end up short on money in Measure B when Ramona Theater comes down the line, I think it's important that we make a commitment to them that we will find the money some way, somehow, to make that theater what it should be for not only Ramona and their arts program, I was at the LCAP committee that was held at Ramona last week. There's over 100 people there. I bet half the comments involved some type of performing arts. So, and that was just from that one school. So I just want to make sure that if I'm going to vote in favor of this bulkhead and committee Measure B funds to Poly, that we make sure we do the same for Ramona. And also just in the grand scope of things with this new trustee area, I think I would like to know, and I don't know if this can be sorted out in the data, but how are we allocating funds across our different schools? Because I think that's important. I mean, I think that was part of the reason, like it or not, why we were kind of forced to go into these trustee areas to make sure that these neighborhood schools and that the community is all being represented fairly and equitably. So part of that is distribution of funds to those neighborhood schools. So I think that's something that, moving on, we need to definitely look at, and even looking back to see how these funds in Measure B were spent across the district. So again, I think this bulkhead is a great thing. I'm a swimmer. I was a water polo player. I think it will be a great addition, but so is the Ramona Theater.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And I do know we have that information about how the money was distributed across trustee areas before they were trustee areas and by site. So we do have that information, and there was a lot of thought given to the equity and the parity with that. So we do have that information. So we can get that for you. I'm sure Dr. Lewis can provide that to you. Mrs. Cloud.
Well, I'm actually kind of looking at things not unlike Mr. Lee. One of the things that happened, I remember clearly, is there was consternation about the cost of the bulkhead when we're looking at distributing the money at all the other high schools, which we, kind of made a kind of even distribution as much as we could. And the bulkhead was postponed because it really put the Poly pool at the high end of the distribution. And we were talking about renting out the pool. Is it possible to have the rent, be used to pay the bulkhead costs? Is that even a possibility? It was always, this is interesting because a lot of these things we've been talking about for several months, even years now, are still kind of bouncing back. We talked about this before, and it was maybe if we have enough money. So do we suddenly have enough money now? And as Mr. Hunt, as Mr. Fine, urged us to remember the Ramona, redo in their auditorium. That's something that we, we're still, is there finality on that? And, we kind of postponed doing anything to the middle school fields, and if you go out there and look, they're pretty bad, and how much money do we have left? So those are that's the kind of information I would kind of like to have. I don't want to drag these things on, but we're at the point now where we're running out of money, and the decisions we make are going to be costly to other projects. So I would ask Mr. Fine or Dr. Lewis, how are we doing if we vote to, include the bulkhead here? Will Ramona be shortchanged? And so.
Can I just?
Mr. Hunt, you're next. So
I just want to speak. If we look back at 2 weeks ago to Dr. Lewis's report to us, all the board received, staff presented the status of Measure B funds. 5.6 million of the board approved projects are either in process or in design. Approximately 4.6 million is encumbered for projects that the board may approve once the design and cost estimates have been prepared. That includes the Ramona project, which I assure all my fellow board members that everyone, including Dr. Beatty when he was on that committee, was very, very intent on seeing completed. The bulkhead, I think you have to look at the bulkhead because we built a 50-meter. When you build a big stadium, you're going to have more ADA ramps because they have to accommodate more people. When you build a 52-meter pool, because the 2 meters are for the bulkhead, you have to accommodate, you're going to have more kids. We'll be able to rent it out more, Mrs. Cloud's a good point. I'm sure it'll be much more interest to folks to rent out in multiple groups because of the bulkhead then provides the safety factor. the committee does want to bring you what we have left to spend, what isn't, and we can do that. I think, Dr. Lewis, if you would just take this paragraph that you prepared for us 2 weeks ago and just expound upon it and include it to the board members. I think it is a lack on our part that we haven't shared some of that in more detail with him. So let's show them what is left, what we've set aside. I think we have $1 million set aside for some energy and matching and some other things like that. The things the committee had gotten, I failed to completely reveal tonight. So I think if we did that, it would answer it. The money is there and more for Ramona. Ramona, from the beginning, Chuck Beatty and I talked about, with the cost of the Fox, being on this ballet board, I know, the cost of Fox is really prohibited for our community groups to use, and that's what it was designed for. The Muni's okay. But in many ways, the community's auditorium, at least from Tyler East, is going to be Ramona. And so we want it to be what it should be, which is, and it's a grand old dame, but she's old and she needs a lot of work. And I think we've got about $5 million. Is that, or is it, how much is it set aside for?
There's $5 million.
Yeah.
Just a quick answer to your question. My recommendation to you is, first of all, the cost of the bulkhead is not going to cause any problems for Ramona's theater being shortchanged, so don't be concerned about that. We do have the security projects at the entrances of schools that are also in design that will be brought back to you once they're completed as far as the design goes, and we get good, solid cost estimates. I would not move forward with any other projects until you've made those decisions on implementing those 2 projects, and then look at what balances we have remaining, and then you'll be able to make a good informed decision of what to go for.
And through good management, our staff has been able to save contingency money. We haven't gone over, and which is always set aside. So I think you'll be pleased with the full detail, and you deserve the full detailed report, Ms. Cloud and everyone. And I think you'll be pleased with it.
That's great. Okay, Mrs.
So
Cloud.
I make a motion to approve the bulkhead.
Great. Mrs. Cloud has a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, make a motion.
I was just going to second his motion.
Go ahead.
Second.
Okay.
So my question, does that include the safety issues? We have enough money for the bulkhead, the Ramona do-over, and the safety issues?
Yes.
Okay. Could I ask Mr. Fine if could I ask him to comment on this? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I would love to hear your perspective.
I guess my perspective is all of those things are in design and we have no idea what they're going to cost.
This is not the final cost?
We haven't bid a single one of those projects, and bid costs are going up in double digits at this point. We see that just in the lobby expense here. So I don't think I think Dr. Lewis's counsel to you is don't go any further is very, very wise. But at this point, I don't think we know enough that we can do everything that's on the list.
Including the safety issues?
Until those come back from bid and from the state architect, some of those have some complexities in them involving ADA that we know from modernization can eat up 80 cents of every dollar. So all I'm saying is I think we have some unknowns out there. I think it's impossible for us to answer the question whether the bulkhead impacts Ramona or safety, or whether we have sufficient funds to do everything on the list. The parking lot lighting projects just came in several $100,000 over bid, right?
Right. So we scaled back the total projects to accommodate what the board approved.
So as long as we're willing to scale back the scope, we can basically make anything come in under price.
So can we... See, my concern is we are getting to the end, costs are going up. Maybe we should set our priorities.
And I think that is the process the committee has tried to work through. But we have some unknowns still out there, which makes... This wasn't a problem $100 million ago, right? Because we knew we had enough wiggle room. As I think even some of you have said, it's almost more difficult to spend the last $5 million than it was the first $500 million, because we're down to trying to bring this right in on precision. You've got a number of projects left, all very great projects, but until we're out to bid in the environment we're in right now with increasing costs, I don't know that we can be quite as firm I think we're close.
Mr. Hunt?
This is a safety issue. That's why I'm supporting it. We built a 50-meter, 52-meter pool. We want kids to take physical ed classes. Some of them don't swim like a rock. We've got to have a bulkhead for our teachers to be out there. Just go to the starting blocks thing at the RCC. I feel confident, though Mike's a little pessimistic, and I know how that can be because the bidding is tightening up. But we have the money for the three priorities we've stated. One's Ramona. Two is the security issues this board is, before you're on, Brent, but we wrestled with and we changed and altered and all that. Most of it's fencing type things, but as Mike points out, at some of the schools, Highland's a good example, it changes the entry and you can't do anything about that. You got to have a 2% slope and all that. And the third one is the $1 million committed to energy efficiency, which will pay itself back to us eventually. It's a good expenditure. I believe you can do all three of those, not with just what we've already allocated, but with the money we still haven't allocated. As he points out in his report, we still have approximately $4.6 million is encumbered for projects that the board may approve once the design and cost estimates have been prepared. So let's say they go over by 10%, that's going to be 5.2. A balance of $4.4 million, let's say they go by 20%, that's $1 million. A balance of $4.4 million remains undesignated. So we've got a pillow of $4.4 million and a restricted balance of $1.9 million, and $93,000 remains for new construction and modernization projects, respectively. I think you'll see when Dr. Lewis provides your report in his weekend update that you've got enough room to hit your priorities of Ramona and the security interests and the energy with some to spare. Then we'll start really dickering over painting this and doing that and moving that around. And Mr. Williams can spend all of it on air conditioning, by the way, about 5 times over. So it's an interesting dilemma, but it really drives home the point. We need a new bond. But I, again, call for the question. This is an important safety item, long overdue at Poly High School.
Okay. So we did have a motion, did we not? Mrs. Alavi made a motion and...
No, Mr. Hunt and then Mrs. Cloud.
Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Hunt and then Mrs. Cloud.
Did you second?
We have a motion and a second.
I think so.
Or did you second it, Mrs. Cloud?
Yeah, didn't you? Or did I?
I think you did, Mrs. Alavi.
Okay, well, I did then.
The discussion went on for so long. Okay, so Mrs. Alavi was second, Tom was, Mr. Hunt was for motion. So please vote. Okay, that motion carries. Polly will get its bulkhead. That's good. Yes, Mrs.
Can
Cloud.
I just say, it was kind of a reluctant vote. I will say that. I do have concerns about coming to the end of the money and what our priorities are. And I don't think the bulkhead is as much a safety issue as the fencing and locks at the schools, for instance. So I hope that we're cautious and careful in how we expend this last bit of money.
I think that's a discussion really that we really do need to have at the Operations Committee, correct? I mean, where we talk about that, so thank you. Okay, item H5, coming to the last action item on the agenda. The consideration of our California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly. There were a number of folks brought forth to serve on this that we are to vote on, and I'm going to call on Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Mrs. Alavi. Mrs. Alavi, excuse me. Used to be Mrs. Alavi. Mrs. Cloud and I serve on this, and we have recommendations for you tonight because there's more than 6.
Yeah.
And the folks that Mrs. Cloud and I would present, and Mrs. Cloud has a list, are folks that we know have been, and though I think all the resumes were outstanding and good people, all like we are, dedicated to improving, enhancing, advancing K-12 education. However, these people we do know, ones that show up, that really participate, and so I would second Mrs. Cloud's motion as she makes it.
Mrs. Cloud, can you clarify Mr. Hunt's motion?
Well, sometimes, we, in the past, the board has not made a recommendation, but since I have we have served on the committee, I do know some of these people and the contributions they've made. So we can vote for as many as 6, and I have actually 5 I recommend. If that's, it's Jerry Bauman, Stanley Crippen, Thomas Elliott, Ben Johnson, and Marla Kirkland. Raymond Sawyer is also a delegate. He doesn't always come, so I would. So he's a very nice guy, but the hard-working members of the delegation are the ones I suggested, and I would recommend that we select them.
Okay, Clerk, Raymond's the fellow from Nigeria. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Then I'm going to kindly ask in a second if we go ahead and, since we do have the opportunity to submit Raymond. He's a very interesting, I think he brings an interesting voice to the board. He's an up-from-the-boots immigrant and really an engaging fella. And he probably, like Tom Hunt, has his own job, and sometimes it's hard to make those meetings. Thank God people like Mrs. Cloud can make most of them when we fail to do so. But if you would accept Raymond as number 6, Mrs. Cloud, I'll second your motion.
Well, I have a hard time with that because he doesn't usually come.
Neither do I, but you're still nice to me. Come on. Then I'll make a substitute motion for the 5 that Mrs. Cloud supported and to include Raymond.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
respect.
Please vote. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Pardon me? The first motion
This motion is overruled by the
is by the substitute motion.
Is that not right? No, it's not. A substitute motion takes the
I don't think a substitute motion does that, but I
think
think
it
you still
does,
have a
so.
motion on the table. But
No.
yeah, I think your intent is clear, and that's what we'll do.
All right. So we are to our conclusion, and I'm going to go to board member comments. I'm going to go to Mr. Hunt on my left. Start, please.
Thank you. I went to the basketball game the other night at Poly versus North, and I got to give Poly had one senior, I think, on that team. A bunch of little skinny, tall white kids, and they ran their tails off. And it's I was so admired that coach trying to keep up with Barty's monsters. But good luck to North. North should go very far. They are so disciplined, and you got to watch a coach in an emotional game because North was not playing their game well. Poly had them on the run, and were decided, in fact, to run instead of delay. And those kids were getting a little upset, and Barty just handled them. The other thing, there was some folks in the chamber there I sat with, and someone said, there's a lot of people and a lot of older parents here, Tom, and there was a lot of people with my colored hair and older folks. I said, no, I said, those folks, this is their community. This is their Lakers. You got to understand, this is North. And it was just filled with all that community and so supportive and just wonderfully handled by, what's our young AD's their name? What's his name, Mike? Our young AD there? Mike Breyer. Mike's doing a terrific job there. And just the pep squad and everything. So, of course, Barty is, as I talked about earlier, I approached, with the money we have left from Tyler Llewellyn's funeral donations, we're going to begin, and then it grew bigger with Daryl's help. We're going to work on a conference for coaches, and of course bring to the board. That would be what we expect, the standard we expect from our coaches, band directors, and so forth, people that work in our extracurricular. Again, my theory, and I've said it before, is that when you're 16, at least in my house it was, your dad's an idiot, but your coach is somebody you highly respect. We heard parents tonight give an unfortunate alternate view. At the same time that Rusty and I and Daryl had a meeting together on this, that morning's Press Enterprise had a story about that this year 16 coaches of varsity sports in the inland area, kind of, from Lake Arrowhead down this way, are resigning their positions. Now, some of that's because of perhaps school boards are making decisions, principals are, and some of it is burnout. One of them is the Notre Dame coach who just came back. He was an alumnus who just came back to take the place of another alumnus, but something I don't have as much appreciation for, but it's how do you handle the modern parent and all the pressure of a kid who may have talent and his parents have the funds to put him in travel ball and all that, but perhaps on his team he's not that, and you're hearing from the parents and all this. So we want to help set a standard that is, one, the antithesis or the opposite, is that right, Mrs. Elvey, of what Corona Centennial does. If you walk on Corona Centennial's campus, I'm appalled at it, but it says, "Welcome to the evil empire." That is their thing about their team. And they had 12 kids sign Division I letters of intent the other day for football. We didn't. I think we had one or two in the whole district. I'd rather have young men and women of character, like we saw the other night with King's tennis team, than I would CIF championships like Centennial favors. So I think we're heading in the right direction. The other thing that Coach Wooden, UCLA, by the way, Mrs. Alvey, in case you didn't know, the other thing that Coach Wooden said is, and I think for us to remember, and I'm sure Mr. Hanson, with Mr. Fine's help and Mr. Macy's understanding, will get this, that a coach is first of all a teacher. And they really are. And they're important to what we want to do as a well-rounded student. But we need to set a norm that reflects the heritage of this community, which was a community that respected others. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for a good meeting. Appreciate it. I also went to the middle school, but I went to do a lot of sports things. That middle school basketball tournament, you have to go to it. It reminded me, it took me back to the days when we didn't have worries about Prop 13. We had money. We had co-rec when I was a kid, and we used to play. And you'll be happy to know, folks, that the STEM school was doing very well. And Polly's got Gage kids have got some shooters on that team coming up that are something else, but those university kids, really great. And what's the name of the young lady, Mike, that runs that program for us? Amanda Dennison. Y'all need to meet Amanda Dennison. She's a future superstar for this district and really pulls that together and worked very hard. So commend those that do that and the community that supports it. And Mrs. Hill, Renee Hill, last week, I want you to know that she's going to be recognized by the NAACP soon. Congratulations on that. Well deserved. And last week, if you saw, she brought me a package that was, because we're both Louisianans, etouffee. And Mrs. Hill, if you think you're going to be able to bribe me with continued gifts like that, keep trying and we'll see what happens. Okay? Because it was very good, and we both thank you very much. C'est bon.
Oh, I noticed because I didn't get a packet. So, yeah, I'm waiting for those beignets is what I'm waiting for. Okay, going to Mrs. Alabi next.
Thank you. First of all, more compliments to the LCAP meetings. They're going great. I'm very impressed. More thank you to all the staff that's running them. Second of all, I had a chance to go to the King Choir Cabaret. It was the most phenomenal choir recital I have ever been to since I have been here. It was a combination of their chamber singers and they've got the show choir there that does the glee kind of thing where they're dancing and singing, and then the chamber choir was incredible. Sadly, however, they scheduled it on the same night as the honor bands. And I was going to say that when there are district-wide performances, that those should take precedent over single performances so that you don't have to miss either one. Because I wouldn't have wanted to miss this choir recital, but I didn't want to miss that honor band. So it was too bad that had to take place. And last but not least, I would like to ask, and you may have already intended to do this, Mrs. Lockdawson, but that we close the meeting in the name of Sherry Power, who was a dear friend and is someone who was an enormous friend to this district, who never tired in her dedication to the PTA and to our kids. So I would ask that you do that.
We will, Mrs. Alvey. Thank you. Mrs. Cloud?
Thank you. A couple of things. I have to say I was a little bit distracted this week by family. And to do just a touch of bragging, the Riverside Art Museum has a Bryant art show now on display. and my two grandkids who go there were chosen. One was expected, and the other was quite a surprise. So anyway, that's going on, and I want to thank RAM for doing that, and Pump Core Knowledge for the exquisite art that they're doing. Remember when we went to the place in Simi Valley-ish out there? There was art everywhere at the school, and so it's pretty exciting. The science fair is always spectacular. I want to ask, and I know this is no dispersion. In fact, I want to thank John Robertson and the staff who put this together. It's quite a complicated affair to get those medals to those kids in that environment and everything. But the parking always is interesting at those events. And I would ask that at the site, like at Central, when there's parking at Central, they open up the gate and let them park on the basketball fields or whatever. And we need to be thinking of that sooner rather than later, especially at Ramona, because if you have to go off in the neighborhoods, it's just not quite as convenient nor safe if you're by yourself. Not that that's a bad neighborhood, but we need to be considering that. And at the backside, if that parking is available, but the school has to be opened. So we need to be thinking not just at Ramona, but when we have those large events, we need to accommodate parents, because you can get frustrated, and what's just happened to me, and just drive away. So I want to thank you all for putting on a really good shoe. For those of you who are old enough to remember that. I chose a Cherry Power service. I had to leave early because they did have company coming, but there was a great community support. And I saw people there I hadn't seen in years, including Georgia Hill. And it's just amazing. It's another remembrance of how in Riverside we're separated by 1 degree, and you never know who knows who, which is a good reminder to tell our kids. Also, the community meeting at North was very well represented with some very good points. It was very interesting there, as well as came up with some of the others, how some kids, there is some frustration with technology. And I would say one of the themes there was that good instruction and good teachers trump everything. And I would say amen to that, and, hope we keep that in mind. And the last thing, just so you know, the RCSBA, the Riverside County School Boards Association, just is in the process of revising its bylaws, and attendance is important, because if you miss more than 3 meetings in a year, they can take it to the state. So that was the concern I have. History is compelling, but if you don't go, you can't participate. So anyway, that's, I'm wrapping it up.
Thank you, Mrs. Cloud. Mr. Lee.
I'll make it quick. So today I've had a lot of meetings school-related, and I'm reminded about that education speak is not always normal people speak. And so I don't just remind everybody that when we use acronyms, I'm starting to catch on to a lot of these acronyms that we use in our daily vocabulary, but for the benefit of the public, just continue to remind people to maybe at least the first time use the full thing. Maybe we can have like an acronym ticker at the bottom of our live stream or something. And then for fear of sounding like a broken record, I just am still, every time I go to one of these LCAP meetings, I'm just blown away by the attendance. I can't think of another outreach where we've asked for any kind of community participation, anything, city-related, school-related, sports-related, where you get consistent numbers of parents from all different backgrounds wanting to participate in the process. So we hear a lot about getting parents engaged and the challenge of getting parents engaged. It's clear that parents want to be engaged. Being at the Ramona LCAP meeting, I was also impressed because I've known we've done a great outreach to our non-English speaking folks out there, but I probably saw at least a dozen people who had picked up those headphones and were listening, and then at least 3 or 4 who actually participated and made their voice heard. So again, I think our district is, we've got to do a huge PR campaign so people know what a great district Riverside is, and that we actually want to listen and hear from our public. So I'm just, again, just proud of the process, and I'm blown away that we get the results that we do. I shouldn't, because this is a great community, but it's hard to get people to show up, and people are showing up. and that's good. That's
It's hard to get people to show up. It is. I want to thank everybody for their discussion about the STEM school, and I hope we can get some resolution. And Mrs. Alavi, I appreciate all the work you're doing, and I hope you will be chair of that workshop, whatever we're calling it. And can all of you please chime in and let Ms. Alavi know what you'd like to see on that and how that works? I know I will. So, just lastly, I mean, I'm not going to go through all the places I was this week. I did want to thank Ms. Paredes for taking me out on some really enlightening school site visits this week. That was wonderful. Really, really enjoy those, so thank you. But I do also, I just want to say one thing. I have a friend who's from the Midwest, and he says when you drive through some of the small towns in the Midwest, their high schools shine like temples, like more than their city halls, than their churches, than anything. And he says they are so proud of these small towns, they will sink all their money into it. And it's a reflection of what you deem a priority. And that's, I really truly believe that. I had a friend in graduate school who was dirt poor. She had no money. But when you went into her house, her apartment, her crummy little apartment, she had these beautiful bookshelves. The most beautiful bookshelves I've ever seen, with tons and tons of beautiful, very rare edition books. And I thought, I know what this woman values. So I do think as a district, it's really critical where we put our money, following up with sort of the concerns of Mrs. Cloud on how we prioritize. But I think we want to tell the world that we do care about education, and that's why things are never looking better. And I want to thank staff for that too. I've been on campuses and things are just looking so nice. We have a way to go. I understand that, but things are really looking nice. So thank you all very much for that. Do we have any agenda items that anybody wants to suggest? Or I don't know did anything come up in tonight's meeting that I missed? I didn't write anything down, so I didn't. No. Just that we know we will come back next. I think, Mrs. Alavi, can you be prepared to report out at our next meeting about how that STEM
sure.
will work?
Yeah. And
okay.
Can we set up a meeting, maybe with Mr. Fine, and maybe talk about how to set this up?
Mr. Fine? Mr. Fine's nodding, yes. And I'd be interested to hear your experiences when you first set up the STEM school, when you went out to the community too. It sounds like both of you had some experience on that. I had one of the parents ask me out there, she said, oh, I want to be on your committee. I want to be one of them. And I said, I don't think you need to be appointed. I'm pretty sure we're probably going to have these be open, people can, or at least part of them. So
of opportunities for the public to speak.
So we will have our parents, I'm sure, in full effect. Okay, so thank you, Ms. Salaby, for agreeing to do that, and the rest of you. I did want to adjourn the meeting, as you suggested, in honor of Mrs. Sherry Power. She was pretty wonderful support of our USD schools. She always put her students first. She passed away on Sunday, February 9th, after I know battling cancer. And most important to me, she was just a very kind person. She was very, very kind to me, even when others weren't. So I never forget that. Mr. Adam Myers, he graduated from Poly, and he was a teaching assistant for 18 years at Ramona for special ed students, and he passed away on February 4th. And another member of our family, Ms. Ann Richards, who was a former substitute teacher for RUSD, passed away on February 10th. So I would like to adjourn the meeting tonight in their honor, and thank you all for sticking it out. Appreciate it.